Alrighty. Evening, everyone. How are we all? I hope we're all very well. Now, give me 1 second. Now, as you guys all know, I was very busy yesterday, and I just want to show you guys a clip of the new mouse that I am running. And you guys will see that later on tonight. I'll probably run a post-analysis stream, so make sure you check that one out. But sit tight while you watch this one. Alrighty, there's that one for you guys. So that's what I'm using now. That's what the event was yesterday. That's who is now making sure that they deliver me all of my hardware stuff. So it's a great little bit of media there. But most importantly, tonight is focusing on a VOD review. Now, I know you guys have been absolutely smashing me to get this done. And here we are finally. And what I've decided to do, which is probably a pretty good way to do it, is talk about the guys who moved out of CL into PL and the people who moved, unfortunately, out of PL into CL. And of course, probably one of the better matches I'd watched was the Soniqs versus Rise Nation. And by better, I mean one I was looking forward to the most. I know there was a lot of people who were unsure about which way this match would go. Obviously, people were putting their money on Soniqs because, you know, the likes of Goddess and a lot of ex-Pro League players who I guess deserve to move back up to Pro League, if anything. So this is why we're here for this one. This is why I'm going to go through this one today and give you guys a really good insight as to the plays, what players or teams could have done better, what they did right, and sort of a lot of just basic analysis that a lot of us analysts and coaches do when we watch VODs, and give you a really good insight of that, guys. So that is why we're here today. So you can see on the right here, I have my little drawing tool here. Throughout the video, I'll be pausing, playing, drawing, giving you guys indications. If you have any questions, do ask them. I may miss it because I'll be focusing on the analysis and whatnot. There are 2 maps. They don't go for a heck of a long time. They weren't exactly like OT maps, but it does give us, as you see here, about an hour and a half worth of VOD analysis, and it will probably go for even longer with all the pauses. So I'm glad that you guys are finally able to be here. Now, what I want to start with and why I've kind of paused it at this stage of the video is to give you guys an indication about the map veto. Now, if you're not familiar with it in the competitive scene, it's probably one of the most integral parts before you actually even get in the match. Sometimes you can lose before you've even started, and that comes straight down to map veto. So generally, you'll have teams who have like default bans. So for example, against Rise Nation, a lot of people ban Bank. It's been banned a higher percentage of time, but that's also because not a lot of people at NA prefer Bank. So you kind of know it's going to be one of those maps that probably won't hit the map pool either. When it's a best of 3, it goes ban, pick, ban, decider. So a little bit slower for you guys. It goes ban, each team takes a ban. Then it goes pick. Then they ban once each again. And then whatever is left over becomes the decider map. So that's how our map vetoes go on a best of 3. When it's a best of 1, it goes ban, decider kind of thing. You know what I mean? So that's a lot easier to identify, but a best of 3 can be really tricky. So generally what you want to do is you have one of 2 choices. If you're the Soniqs and you know this is a deciding factor of you getting into Pro League, you either ban their best map or your worst map. Now, I'm unsure because I don't have full statistical analysis of Soniqs done. I do have some of Rise, but not so much of Soniqs. And I'm not sure if this is because they thought it was Rise's best map or whether it's because they thought it was their worst map. That's why they banned it. I know Rise got rid of that because it was one of Soniqs' best maps, or arguably one of their best maps, and one that they didn't feel quite strong on. So that's why they've gone with that one. So picking Villa, number one. Why do we think that Rise picked Villa? Well, that's a really easy one. If you guys aren't really familiar with Rise, you guys, when they went up against Dark Zero at the end of April, I believe, they almost were able to snag that game. They went up against Rogue on Villa as well. I believe they went up against Accelerate, beat them. They tied Evil Geniuses. No, they didn't go up against Rogue. They went up against DZ, almost beat them. They beat Accelerate Gaming on Villa. So they were feeling quite confident with the Villa map, and as you should. If you're that good at Villa, then you might as well go, okay, sweet, this is the one I'm going to do. This is the one that I should be able to secure the first map. So they were feeling very confident on Villa, as they should. So they pick Villa first. Then, of course, Soniqs pick Oregon. Because, well, when your best map happens to be Oregon, why not pick it? It's the same with my team, Penta. We have one of our best maps being Oregon, so that's one of the first picks you probably would go for, one of your most confident maps. Then, of course, the Coastline ban, the Border ban, that left Consulate. I think both teams felt predominantly confident on Consulate. I don't think it was either of their best maps, and statistically it's not. But that's why the map veto sort of went that way. I think they were both bargaining on their preference choices and then hoping for, a pretty good, I guess, steamroll at the end there, depending on how the maps are gone. So getting into the round, and let's sort of skip it here to the ban phase. This is one thing I wanted to highlight. A lot of people said, oh, why did they ban Capitao? And then you kind of go, well, I mean, the Capitao got a buff. That's kind of why, you would expect to get rid of him, especially on a map like Villa where there's a lot of tight corners, a lot of areas you can sit and hide and get rid of that one. But what a lot of people don't understand is that Rise had never used a Capitao on Villa before. Yes, the buff was recent, but if you had have done an analysis of Rise, you would have worked out, okay, they've never played Capitao on Villa before. They have on other maps, I will admit, but they've never played it on Villa. So why do we think that Soniqs was like, okay, well, I really don't want to play against Capitao? And I really think that's because the way that the map is set out. I think Soniqs were kind of like, we don't want to play him ourselves, or they were that worried about the Capitao as a whole in all of the tight corners that they might want to play, that they sort of went, you know what, we're going to get rid of it. It's something we're really worried about. And then they got rid of that. Of course, to get rid of Maverick on this kind of map, that's a very, very simple ban because you can open a lot of Study Aviator where the impact tricks usually happen. It makes it a heck of a lot easier. So getting rid of the Maverick there made them a lot safer when they were going to switch on to defense. Kaid as well. I mean, you could have banned any operator you wanted to, and that's going to force Soniqs into banning the Mirror. And that's a pretty comfort ban there. The only one out of those banning phases that I was sort of, curious about was that Capitao one, given there was no suggestion sort of that Rise had ever sort of played that on Villa, and that must have been a comfort pick, I think. So that is why we have the ban phase that way. Moving on into the first round, and right, this is what I like, okay? So, and this is something I do want to point out. If you're a CL team, a PL team, it doesn't matter who you are, and you get in to the 6-pick phase here, and you don't do a 6-pick, I argue why. In the first round of any game, you have the opportunity to bait going to a random site by, I don't know, maybe popping a castle up there or 6-picking off of it or doing any of those, wonderful ways. And that's why you would do, particularly in the first round, you would flash a really obvious operator that goes in another side, say like down in Trophy, whatnot. If you're known for playing Castle and Trophy, if you're known for running a particular operator on one of the sites, flash that 6-pick off of it, and then it baits the other team into thinking, oh, maybe they're going to go on the other side. Of course, just the element of surprise, if you're not having a castle and them working out, oh, well, you might need to go here because we don't have the soft breach, or, okay, Hyper, you're going to have to go here because we need to get rid of the castles. That in itself makes them talk about something other than the plan that they were initially going to go with. And it's just a little bit of mind games like that. So it's very interesting to me that neither team decided to pick a 6-pick. I think every round you can try and do a 6-pick is a very viable one, and it should be something that teams are employing in their operator and sort of 6-pick phase as much as they can. So that's a little bit of an interesting one to me. But In regards to the lineup, not a surprise that they're going Aviator and Games Room first. It's one of the stronger sides, both top floor sides being the stronger of Villa. And Mute, I would argue a Mute's pretty important, especially in this side. You can block drones from really good positions. It's really difficult to get rid of those Mute jammers behind the walls and doors and in vault, etc. A smoke is also extremely viable because you can't. The default plant spot over in Aviator is behind the vault door, and you can't really sneak any shots behind there. You kind of have to smoke or C4, so that's a smart one. Elysion's great too, Maestro for the intel, a Jaeger to stop any of those gnarly sort of nades and whatnot coming through, and that to me seems like a really solid lineup for this side. I do worry that maybe denying those walls into study. I mean, the Mavericks ban, so you might as well then try and sort of bandit trick or do something like that. But they're probably in this case going to impact trick possibly. So depends on what they're running. Maybe the Legion will think about it. But if that's not the case, I mean, you'd probably wonder about that. Crazy going the Buck. Not surprised. They would have expected them to go Aviator in games first. The Ash. I know that that's obviously the frag potential and a little bit of verticality there as well. Nomad's a great one for the flanks. There are a few staircases on Villa, so that's what you need. The IQ, hyper important. And excuse my pun, but that is super important to bring, especially on a map like Villa. It's so big. There's so many areas to put utility. I can't stress how important IQ is, especially in these coming seasons. Kind of like a Thatcher these days, so that's what I'm interested in to see how Vandal uses the IQ. So pretty solid lineups, but nothing out of the ordinary. Maybe possibly the Habana could have been traded out for a Thermite, but that's a team preference thing. Now, as we get into the setup here, you can see that default reinforcements going up from Soniqs. Mirror's been banned, so of course, you're more than likely to just reinforce off the entirety of study. Avian's going to place down a Mute jammer there. And that's going to be the denial that they were hoping for. Now, Thatcher's not banned, so to just sort of rely on a Mute jammer like that is a little tricky, because if these walls get opened, you kind of lose your control over games. And that's a really tricky thing to have to work with, because you can open up just a mere line of sight here with the one Habana pellet, and you can just block off that whole line of sight. So that can be a really tricky one there. Relying on a Mute is something I argue is probably not that great of a choice. But you can see that they've got quite a lot of barbs set up in 90, actually 3 of them. And then, of course, the default Maestro cam will go down the end there. And the trouble with that now with unfortunately Maestro got that big nerf, is that by settling it there, it gives extreme access to Twitch. To someone could rappel up here on the 90 window. It could be Thatcher. You can Thatcher it and shoot it really quickly. So that's the problem with now putting that default Maestro cam at the end of 90, because you kind of lose your utility before it's even begun. You might only just know, oh, someone is rappelling on there. I don't know if someone's going to jump in. I don't know anything, and then it's destroyed. So that one might be something that you see a lot of us Pro League teams change around now, that it's too easy to destroy those Maestro cams. What I do like is that reinforcement here, and you can see that that's a beautiful reinforcement. Why? And I realize I have a drawing tool here. This is easier for you guys. Is that if you don't reinforce this reinforcement here, someone could get a really wicked wall bang or line of sight from the aviated door in the connector sort of area all the way through over to bar, and a lot of people play here. So not surprising to me that you would reinforce that one. That's a great one. They've actually decided not to put a little rotate here, rather than just open all of this up so that smokes can be thrown over, or whatever it is that they want to throw over there to deny the plan. So this is a really cool way of thinking about it. I really like it personally. And it kind of allows for more games rule control, and no one can just sort of run in, force their way through the rotate. They actually have to go in and around through vault, which is kind of a kill hole if there's enough people playing around here. So I really like that one personally. I think that's a great one. Now, what I do think is probably Soniqs' plan is actually, you can see here, is that Ghost is opening the top of the vault wall that's reinforced. That one's a really easy one to impact trick. But the trouble with that is that if you're a smart attacking team, you'll just place a thermite on the ground over here and it blows open the bottom. Someone lays down and has a line of sight and then no one can impact trick. But because they only have a Habana and they sort of would have been, I guess, noticeable to that fact, you can put the Habana pellets really low down and the impact trick can sometimes miss it, or you can put half-half. Both works. So I still think it's very hard to deny the vault wall from being open. If it wants to be open, I think it will. And that's probably why it's better to focus on holding this sort of study like this rather than it is to hold the vault, purely because it's just so hard to hold it. If an attacking team wants to open it, they will. So that's a tricky one in regards to that setup. Now, of course, mute jammers will go in pretty default places, stopping a couple of drones, stopping that wall from being opened as well. So it's a dual type of thing. Vault wall will get also muted. And what I like is that Rise is keeping a lot of their drones well out, either outside or in places that they can't be shot or noticed. So that's really good drone economy. That's a way to go about it. And I like seeing that one. And now you'll see the rotate coming out through here. So this, what we were talking about before, about this line of sight, sort of from this door across over into bar. Now that they've opened this completely, it kind of negated the fact that they reinforced this, which I didn't like. They could have put a tiny one here, a crouch level rotate, and that would have still given them the kind of ability to play around bar a little safer. So the fact that it's completely open like this, I feel just gets rid of the fact that you've used an entire reinforcement here. So I do worry that that might be a hole in their strategy going forward. Now look at this. This is one of my favorite things. This is what I love. This is when you know a team understands the importance of intel. Avian here, I think it was even 3 seconds before the round had even begun, was jumping on the cams and was instantly trying to find out where they were spawning. It's very likely he was on the cam out here, because if he knows they're going to do a bedroom take, that gives a much better bit of intel. Goddess, also, this, if you've got a pro league team where their two anchors instantly get on cams, and it's something we try and focus on as well, then you know that they're a really, really solid team. And that's 100% why you should have anchors who are very good at communication and very good at intel collection. That's what these two players are doing right now. And that, to me, shows that they care about knowing which direction. Are they going to come through and from the south take, or are they going to come through from a northeast take? And that's what these two players are trying to ascertain here. And that's why they're on their cams instantly. Super plays in 90. That's pretty good. Nothing wrong with playing in 90 and having 90 control there. That's a really good option to do. And you'll see that they've decided to go through with a bedroom take. And this is a really popular take for it. Getting map control on a really big map like Villas is really handy. They've got drones zooming around and a couple of other players making their way around and having a really solid and very quick, mind you, look how quickly they've been able to get in. They've got trophy control, they've got bedroom control, they've got some flank drones on astronomy stairs. That's a really solid way of taking extremely quick map control, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on Soniqs extremely quickly. What I'm worried about, however, is that whilst this hot drone is coming out for hyper, which is great, this is a great way of doing roam clear, there is someone downstairs. And that worries me because no one has been able to ascertain that there is someone downstairs. And the person that on the side of Rise that should be downstairs getting the, I guess, equipment from underneath is Vandal. Now that should have probably been Rise's first step one, is to go, we need control of downstairs, because what we actually need, and we know that they have, is a couple of ops. Like they've got Legion, they've got ADSs, they've got mute jammers. If we bring an IQ and the whole roof is destructible almost, then we can go underneath and we can easily dispose of those. Instead, they decided to take their IQ up in through bedroom as kind of like one of their roam clearers, and that to me seems like a massive waste of time, even though they've taken top floor control really quickly. So there is someone downstairs from Soniqs, and the fact that they don't know that shows that they haven't been as efficient in their drone economy as they want to be. You can see Acid, he's going to put some air jabs on the flanks, and that's a perfect use of it, but you cannot just always solely rely on that. And you can see all the Vandal's going to spot out is things like default cams and Elysian Mine and things over on the other side of the map that aren't pertinent to their push into site. So the fact that he's warring on things that are on the other side of the map is not a great utilization of his utility. You can see there's a lot of doubled up drones as well from the side of Rise. But this is what we were talking about. To get vault control, all England needs to do, flash over, and he does shoot those pellets a tad high, but he does manage, I believe, to set those ones off. And you can see here, the air jabs will come out. And to me, Vandal and his use of his utility was so minimal, he may as well have gone another operator that he's better on fragging on, because he hasn't used almost anything of his cassette. So I am worried that he is not focusing 110% on what his job is meant to be, which is to get to the utility. Things like the ADSs, things like the mute jammers. He could literally go underneath Vault and start shooting that mute jammer and get rid of it instantly. It could have been done in the first 30 seconds. Instead, they've now wasted half the round and they're still not being able to open sight for the plan. And that kind of reinforces my point. He tries to get on a drone, but there's a mute jammer blocking it. And it's very funny because it's his job to be the one to get rid of that one since they didn't bring a Thatcher. So, of course, Avian's going to take out Crazy. And that's going to be the Buck who was out on the balcony there. And this is what I'm talking about. When you don't have study control and you try and pressure from either of the balconies and you haven't taken any control of this or you haven't taken control of South Stairs, anyone can play in study. Anyone could just run out of Aviator at any time and shoot you. So for Crazy to think that he had any control of that was very dangerous. Now you can see that England's going to try and get that wall again. And he keeps trying to get this wall. He even shoots a whole nother bunch of pellets on the wall, but it's still muted. So no matter how fast Rise Nation took control of the top floor of the other side of the map, had flank drones, had air jabs it doesn't mean crap if you can't get the one wall open you need to start putting pressure on site to get the plant down. So for them, all they needed right now, I would be sending Vandal downstairs and going, I don't know, drop the hatch. He has breaching charges. He can pop the hatch, drop the hatch, go underneath, shoot the mute jammer. To me, it seems like a simple response. And Vandal is still waiting outside Aviator door. And they still have complete control of things like South Stairs, Study, etc. So the defenders are quite spread out. And they have a lot of map control around the side that Rise just didn't take over. So this is why they start to stall out. You can see them. They're all on flank drones. They're all on drones trying to work out the site. Mute jammers are still up. A lot of drones just sitting around on stairs, bunched up together. Not a lot of good drone economy like I saw them do at the start of the round. And now you can see, well, they're down to a minute. Jaeger, which is super, is still downstairs where Vandal should be, trying to get those pieces of utility. They could have had a pick on super already and be getting rid of the utility. You can see Vandal actually trying to face check with his cassette rather than go underneath and use verticality with it. And now they're just trying to drone out the side to work out what they're going to do with it. And here's that line of sight I was talking about before. So you guys know I was talking about how they reinforce the wall over here, but that's only if you go in a bit more and then peek, that's going to block anything. You can get that full line of sight completely from this door by opening this entire square. So what they've done there is open this wall and then close this one off. Now, unless you're trying to block 90 door or you're trying to block some of the pool table area, which it doesn't really, or behind A-bomb, if you're prone to playing behind A-bomb because you like those type peaks, then that reinforcement makes sense. But given where Goddess is playing right now, it doesn't make sense to have this open more than a crouch hole, which that would have kept her safe, given that the bar goes to about here. Now, of course, you can see that they finally get some mute jammers and they finally decide to try and get some study control. But when you've only got 45 seconds left, you haven't been able to open up the vault wall. You can see it's still closed here. You start to panic. And that's just the realism of it. You lost your buck as well, who could have given some verticality, some assistance there. And now you're trying to play completely horizontal. And now all that Soniqs needs to do is just turtle up on side and wait for you to panic rush in. So you can see here the smoke start to come out. That's a perfect time. And generally around 30 seconds is when you want to pop your first one. And they start droning again and again and again and recycling drone after drone. And then, of course, they decide to jump in and try and plant behind Vault. Now, that there, where someone runs in behind Vault, that is the default plan. Now, if I'm a Legion, and you don't have to be the smartest Legion, but you are going to put a Legion mine behind Vault, 110%. So the IQ should have known 110% there would be a Legion mine behind there. That's an indicator for the defenders that you are now in the default plant spot. And had the IQ gone underneath and gotten rid of that, they may have been able to get in behind Vault door for the plant undetected, but nothing was done vertically. So that's why we're seeing a very, very massive lack of ability to take control of this side. Of course, Ghost is open to this fact. They baited a little bit. Of course, you see the flank's going to come through. Neptune's, all he has to do is throw out. And mind you, he's on extremely low health. He just has to throw out an impact. That's going to end that on Vandal. Smokes are going to come out again. And you could just see Hyper trying to get picks, just trying desperately. All Avian has to do on almost no health is hold that window there with a shotgun. And of course, you can just have 90 control still because no one took South Stairs. So you can hold the entirety of 90 by holding down the ending corner. And you could see all these Rise players stacked up here in the connector of Aviator. And of course, Super, even if he was air jab, no one's there to be able to stop him. So he comes around through Trophy and he's able to just completely blindside the rest of the Rise players who've got 10 seconds left to play with. Well, Super's able to collect both of those. Avian collects Hyper out on the window. And that, to me, shows probably why, I guess, teams on Villa who are not prepared to play vertically struggle a heck of a lot. And why Soniqs, all they had to do was hold lines of sight and use their utility. They really, really, really didn't have to do that much that round to win that one because it was kind of gifted to them from Rise. So I think that round there is particularly was really well done by Soniqs. They didn't overextend themselves. They know they didn't need to. And when they knew that the IQ was upstairs, they knew their utility was safe. So it was a much easier round for Soniqs, I think. And coming into the next round, of course, having one Aviator, they move over to Trophy and Statue. And this is what I mean by doing the 6-pick thing. Like, if I was going up against Sonic and I saw them flash a Pulse, I might think they go Trophy. Maybe, because the Trophy is a really popular side to run Pulse on because you can play pretty safely underneath, whereas playing underneath for Aviator and whatnot, unless you're just doing it as sort of like a late flank or like a roam, kind of dedicated roam where you're not intel collecting, is a lot safer. But Pulse is really popular for Trophy and Statue. So is Valkyrie as well. So flashing one of those and 6-picking off, that would have been the way to go about it. But you can see here, everyone picks their operators. Pretty default. Hyper gets off the Ash. He goes on the Zofia. We still have Vandal on the IQ. I would have liked to have seen a Thatcher at this point, but that's okay. And then we wait for the 6-pick. And if it follows the trend of last round, no one's going to 6-pick again. And no one does. So you can see again a little bit of wasted opportunity there. And they now know every single operator that both teams are going to run. They do move into Trophy and whatnot, and this gives them a really good indication. You can see Hyper has his drone downstairs. He knows exactly where the site's going to be, as should any team who has just lost to the Aviator site. They should know it's going to be Trophy next. What worries me a little bit is that Hyper has his drone completely inside, jumping around, making a lot of noise. He probably could have kept that out of the drone hole at Astro Stairs. That's a really good spot to keep your drones. But either way, probably just collecting his intel, trying to ascertain which kind of operators they have, what kind of setup they're running. And to me, this looks like a pretty default setup. Usually leave that wall soft, put a rotate on this spot here. Usually a crouch one, but it doesn't really matter which one you put there. It's sort of doesn't really matter overall. And of course, reinforce these 2 walls and reinforce the triple wall here. Those are the major reinforcements. Some people reinforce this wall as well because they don't want to be able to have the line of sight from red stairs over. But either way, those are popular reinforcements to go by. So this site is a pretty default meta way of playing it. What they do, however, is reinforce the aviator walls, which I really like because a team like Rise, who likes to do a complete map sweep, they're obviously going to want to come through the other side of the map and then take top floor control because they're a very horizontal team. So by reinforcing this, you're able to just run around freely all you want through Vault. You can run around through Aviator, run around through games if you wanted to. Super has really good control there, and he's got his leisure mines to just sort of place a dot around the map wherever he wants, so it gives him an indication of where people are pushing him from. And this is what I was interested in, the Pulse, where the Pulse wanted to play. Now, he starts off pretty aggressive, if you ask me. I'd probably be collecting the intel a little bit first. He tries to work out if anyone is coming in through the bottom of South Stairs, front door. But yet again, we see Avian, who's going to just use his mute jammers to deny this wall. He's opened up the top, which gives me an indication he probably also wants to have someone impact trick it. But overall, relying just on mutes is not a great or viable option for this map usually, because teams will usually have their IQ go underneath, or their Buck, or a Zofia, or they just bring a Thatcher, which is an easy way to dispose of the utility. What's interesting to me, however, is that Super is kind of left to his own devices and 2 whole reinforcements are put over on Aviator. Now, I argue it's better to have the Jaeger and the Legion play together here, set up a crossfire, set up some really good baiting tactics. You know, Super could sit tied up against the wall, and then, of course, Neptunes could sit in Vault and then bait anyone who tried to come in from either side and get some good crossfires. But putting Super by himself there is this really risky type of play from the defenders. As you can see, as predicted, pretty much all of Rise is going to try and do a south to north take, which was expected, of course, because they like to take map control from one side to the other and push the site that way. But it does look like Ghost moves up to assist Super, who is playing in the Vault. Now, a better way that Soniqs could have gone about that, as I said, move Neptunes into Games Room to assist, put a rotate between Games and Aviator like you would if you were playing that site, and then have Ghost underneath with his pulse scanner telling those 2 roamers exactly which door they were pushing. That's a really good way to use Pulse and his intel collection. And the drones do come out pretty well enforced, but it's almost as if Super wants to kind of give up the games room, and actually they used a heck of a lot of reinforcements over there. They left that right wall soft, of course, because if they wanted to use their utility there, they could have, and that still would have blocked a little bit of line of sight into the corner. But the fact that they gave it up so quickly and they didn't really contest it, and they use a heck of a lot of reinforcements over there. Not that the reinforcements really needed to be used anywhere else, but it kind of seems to me like they gave up that ability to contest that side of the map a little bit more. And you can see everyone defaults off and gives up this part of the map, you know, well less than a minute after the round's begun. So it's really early, but they have managed to stop England from being able to use all 3 of his X-Kairos on a wall like Bedroom Wall, which to me seems like an extremely important wall, especially when you're pushing through to a site like Trophy and Statues. So the fact that they don't have any pressure on this wall yet again, gives Soniqs a lot of room to roam around their side. So you can see they're still worried that there is someone up in there. The fact that Hyper's sort of checking everything and whatnot doesn't bode well for the fact that they maybe could have taken a little bit more control a little bit quicker. Now that they know they have control of this side of the map, England moves out with the diffuser, which is a very smart idea. There's no reason unless you're going to go plant in corner or in default of A, or there's another default over there as well, unless you're going to go plant in the corner or whatnot, then there's no point for him to have the diffuser sort of stuck around on E stairs or red stairs or anything. The use of drones by Rise is good. They use a lot of it, but it's not as effective as it should be. And just because we see a lot of drones doesn't mean that their usage of it is always that effective. You see here, Neptune still is able to play in bedroom, even though it's hyper aggressive position to play. It's a very unsafe position to play because there are 3 windows, 4 if you count closet, and bathroom as well, which can spot you out in those areas. So super aggressive spot to play, but he manages to do quite a passive aggressive job of it here. And then finally, players from Rise, when over half of the round is elapsed, are finally putting pressure on the bedroom, which oftentimes takes a heck of a long time to take control of if there's someone playing in there. So the fact that they don't have a drone coming in, doing some kind of intel collection, this could have been an easy kill. And there it is. And he shoots the drone and the call would have come out, but no one would have expected him to jump out like that. And the 2 kills he collects there is kind of like a 1 in 10 chance that aggressivity works. And I highly doubt, had it been, a second or 2 later, he would have got those kills, but it was the timing of it. And it was a really good, all aim, no brain kind of thing. But I believe there was quite a lot of thought process behind it, because for him, he was pressured so much. They knew he was there, and at any moment they could have shot him from anywhere. So he decided if he was going to do it, he should be aggressive. And then, of course, Vandal picks off Super, who was playing on site, actually, I believe, in Statue. So that he would have been super aggressively peeking, which they didn't need to because they still had a lot of site control. So there was really no need for any of the anchors or anything to peek on over there. And now there's only 45 seconds left. The wall in bedroom is still closed. None of it's opened up. The top of it is also open, and there's still the ability, if they want to C4 over or under or whatnot. This, to me, the fact that Rise knew they had a pulse, even if they thought they might have 6-pick off it, that you still should have drones below, always for this site, because you can never guarantee that someone like a Mute or a Bandit or whoever has a C4 on your team, or on the opposing team, I should say, is not just going to jump over balcony, go underneath and C4. 100%. And they flashed the pulse, they didn't 6-pick off it. And the fact that Rise do not care about the verticality of this map is really their downfall, and would explain why you don't see sort of Vandal doing any kind of, shooting of the mute jammers on the walls, doesn't do any vertical kind of gadget destruction, nothing like that. So playing completely horizontal like this and giving Ghost all of the opportunity to give every bit of intel, and he's being so patient by not C4ing, not doing anything like that. He gives all of the intel to Avian, who's able to get Vandal, and then of course Hyper gets Goddess, which is an unfavorable pick considering you still want someone like your Maestro, your Echo, to be the last alive. And then all they have to do here is, with 20 seconds left, they have complete intel as to where they're coming from. Goes down to a 2v2, but when you've got around 15 seconds, anything sub 20 seconds, and you've got a C4 underneath and no one challenging them, that's a pretty good way to be pretty confident that you're going to win this round. And the fact that Neptunes doesn't challenge whatsoever is perfect. That's exactly when you still got Maestro cams up, giving complete intel. You don't want to die too early, so that if the C4 comes up on the planter, then the other person takes over and they start planting again. And then Ghost it takes too long to get up through the stairs of East Stairs. And then once he's finished planting, he shoots him. So Neptunes backs off, lets the pings come out. The pings still come out. He gets the intel someone's pushing into bedroom, gets the kill. And then now they know exactly where the last person is. And all they have to do is either stay safe or throw a C4 up. And he's in just no time at all for him to be able to get the plants. And then Soniqs win that round. And what is most confusing to me is that players like Rise, who are not unexperienced players, or inexperienced players, I should say, should know that if a pulse is on any lineup and you're playing a top floor on any map, that the pulse is going to be underneath. They had an IQ. The fact that they do not know how to use an IQ, and whether or not it's Vandal's fault or whether or not he's been thrown on that role and he's not used to it, that is one critical error as to why this map is going downhill for Rise really quickly. And these are rounds that they could be winning because they're taking a lot of map control really quickly and they're not able to do anything with it because they don't know how to get rid of, or open up the lines of sight or get rid of some of those mute jammers, simple mute jammers. And my argument is that the fact that they're running this same lineup over and over and over again, you can see a little bit of diversity here from Soniqs. They're going downstairs, so they're changing up. They've got the castle, the dock, the mute, the pulse again, and the smoke. But Vandal either needs to 6-pick off onto a Thatcher, something that's a little bit easier to get rid of that utility, or someone else needs to do that job because they just don't know how to get into sight. They're not opening up any lines of sight, and that's really what's stopping them from being able to get into any of the sites. And I think that was a massive downfall of the first 2 rounds of them especially. And it's a heck of a lot easier to take control of top floor and do a downwards approach like that than it is an underfloor and do an upwards approach. But teams should be aware of that regardless. So now that they move down to kitchen, which of course is the more preferable site compared to the other side, which I believe is lounge. And you could see there, the fact that Rise kind of was going for those frag heavy horizontal pushes, it didn't pay off for them almost at all. 2 rounds and their team collectively has 3 kills. And you can see on the other side, Soniqs, they're actually not relying a heck of a lot on kills. They're relying on having the site held off and then kills in the last minute. And that's because of how long Rise are taking to get to the site and how passive aggressive Soniqs are being with it. So that's a really good, except for I think Super was the only one that sort of overextended himself on either of those rounds and got killed there. Though that's what makes Soniqs so successful on their defensive top floor so far. Now, what I really like about this as well is that because, and I don't know if this is just their preset strat, which is very much likely is, but because Rise really struggle with getting rid of utility and using their own utility, bringing a castle to me seems kind of comedic because very possibly it might stall out Rise if they don't have Hyper or they don't have their breaching charges on Vandal in the spot where the castle is going to be. So if they're upstairs focusing on verticality, with guys like Crazy and stuff, and Vandal actually uses his cassette above, then maybe they will struggle to get these castles open. Well, Valk cams around as well. Be interesting to see whether or not Vandal actually is able to spot out those Valk cams, because at the very least, that's what an IQ should be able to do. And all of them decide to spawn over in the northeast. That's not a surprise to me. Would it be nice for them to use their really strong, swift, efficient top control to have a couple of them come in from like Aviator and whatnot? But it's not always necessary if you're able to pinch both Trophy and Statue pretty efficiently and you have that control. You can air jab a couple of the stairs and feel pretty confident that you have that top floor control. So it's not outrageous that none of them are sort of going in from the Aviator side. And actually, talking about Super, the one player who kind of puts himself in those awkward positions, those, I guess, the most aggressive player on Soniqs, at least for this map. You can see him actually playing upstairs, and I believe it's over in Vault area or whatnot, and he has his Velcans around and he's trying to use the intel collection to see whether or not he can sort of rotate over to get the kills on anyone. And this is what I'm talking about. Rise are really efficient at taking control of zones very, very quickly. They're confident. They know, okay, this room is clear. Get in, let's go. And that's why I like Crazy, because he's obviously aware of what his role is. It's to get that verticality. And that's why he goes, yeah, I'm in. I'm going to get this verticality. I'm going to go now. there's no need for them to stall it out or whatnot. The fact that he's still a little bit worried about astronomy is worrisome, because the drones should be preset in areas and everyone should have already droned those areas or had preset drones at the bottom of Astro stairs to see whether or not anyone went up during prep phase. And you can see here, Vandal kind of pulls out his scanner for like a second, looks at it, and then does nothing. And to me, yet again, such a crucial mistake, because this player right here, the IQ, I don't care which player plays it, but the IQ themselves should be upstairs. It is such an easy way to get a pick on the pulse, or to really scare the pulse by shooting down on him, to see the mute jammers, and to see any Valcans that might be sitting on the roof or upstairs watching your players upstairs. So the mere fact, again for the third round in a row, the IQ of Rise doesn't do an IQ's job, shows me that this round in itself might go very south very quickly. Now, guaranteed, without a doubt, if we go back there and we see Vandal running in here, without a doubt, that wall on his left, that double wall there, guaranteed there's a mute jammer there. Now, they want to bring both England and Vandal in here, which is a very, very important part of the map to take when you want to try and push this aside, because if you can get this wall open or get any peeks, it just stops anyone from playing the boxes over here. It really cuts off of a heck of a line of sight. You could have someone on the door watching as well. And I guarantee you there is a little mute jammer sitting behind this double wall here. And all Vandal had to do to assist in his Habana being able to ex-Cairo this wall is go above and shoot down. That is all he had to do. And instead, what he's done is he's put himself in an extremely dangerous situation, because this wall is closed right now. And usually what you have, like the mute or the smoke, playing here with a shotgun. So if he moves up into this area any closer, he could just get spun around a shotgun instantly. No control, no utility has been used thus far, and it's almost over half of the round. That is an amazing drawing of a shotgun, I know. But this is what I'm talking about. This wall is one wall that very likely is opened above as well for the impact trick, but you can crouch down and really put X-Caros or an exothermic really low, and the impact trick can miss it. But the fact that none of this is being done is so incredibly dangerous, so incredibly dangerous. Even again, they brought and they flashed the pulse. They didn't six-pick off it, and no one has decided to go deal with the pulse. So, again, two things that an IQ should be specialized in is getting rid of utility that's jamming walls or stopping walls, and finding out where the pulse and the vigil, if there is one, is playing. And none of that being done by Rise, and that to me is yet another crucial mistake. Super's running around the other side of the map like a madman. That's okay, actually, because sometimes leaving the roamers and just putting a flank hold somewhere or some air jabs is enough. You don't have to engage them. You can let them run around like idiots and do nothing, and that's fine. So that's okay for Rise at the moment, because they do have the top 4 control that they need. But look at this. There we go. The X-Cairo is getting on the wall. The top of the wall is open. Crazy is above, and it's very likely he has shot that open above. So it's very likely he actually has got the mute jammer there. So I actually take back what I say about Vandal having been the one to needed to have done that, because the verticality that you can get from a buck actually can get away any of that utility anyway. But it is more effective to have the IQ do it, because that's when you get it with certainty. Now this is good, because whilst England gets this wall, Vandal can cover this door. That's great. Doing the right thing there. And of course, Avian impacting over, and the mute jammer is still there, ladies and gentlemen. It's still there. There it is. There's the mute jammer still on the freaking wall. There. Let's just draw Wow, that's a really bad arrow. I'm going to go again. Arrow to the mute jammer. The one thing inhibiting them from getting into the freaking laundry wall. There, that tiny little mute jammer. No, there's a vertical hole above. Hello. You had one job. If only they had a buck. If only they had an IQ. If only they had some vertical control. Okay. That's okay. So, we continue. Mind you, yet again, I believe that England has put a double X-Kairos on the wall, even though it's muted. And he tries to press it twice because the first time he wasn't quite sure it was muted. The second time he's definitely sure it's muted. The third time is the charm. And then they finally get it. Now I'm going to try and like pause it right on that moment. There. That's when they finally shoot the mute jammer. With over half of the round elapse. To me, that is such a rookie mistake. Why? Because the entire time this mute jammer is feeding information to the defenders. Like if you're a smart Pro League player, you'll press tab. When you hear the X-Kairos being shot at it, you'll press tab and you'll see how many points you gain. This is how we work out if someone's down from a grenade as well. You tab and the grenade goes off, and if you get 50 points, you got it down. So they've wasted so much time trying to get this wall open, and the mute's probably sitting there looking at his scoreboard going lol, 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 over and over again, yeah? Knowing how much time he's wasted. If the Soniqs were a more aggressive team, they would have just been like lol and just like brought someone around to this door with a shotgun, and whilst England is just consistently pressing his X-Kairos, shotgun the crap out of him. And this seems like I'm ragging on Rise, but for me, this was a crucial game for them. And this is one where these kind of rookie mistakes cannot happen if you want to stay in Pro League. It's why Soniqs were able to take such advantage of them in this match. Yeah, I mean, you could see 4 over the top. I actually agree with the fact that they didn't throw anything over the top because, I mean, you might as well keep that utility until the end for the actual when you are certain you can use it. But yeah, very hilarious to me that they kept trying and trying and trying. When England would have heard the mute jammer there, the IQ would have seen the mute jammer there, and the buck would have also when he bucked above. So, real big mistakes there coming out from the side of Rise. They do finally get it open. The impact comes out again. But it's, of course, it can't, from that kind of arc, it can't reach it. So the wall finally does get opened. And now, Super, and I want to see if I can like spot where that was again, who has been playing all the way up in Vault and Aviator for like, what is it, over a minute and a half now, dancing around there with all of his Valcams. Mind you, all the Valcams are still up, except for the one I think he threw outside, because Vandal on the IQ doesn't know how to get the Valcams. So, this is why we have only gone 15 minutes in this VOD review, because I have so much to point out about what went wrong here for Rise. And they were very stressed during this game, I bet. I understand. But that is no excuse for these kind of mistakes, especially on their map pick. So, Super, of course, gets a kill all the way over there on an unsuspecting party. Boom. Goes down. Goddess and Neptunes are now huddled up over an art. Why? Because no one else is pressuring from anywhere else. So they can, of course, just sit next to the room and watch the lines of sight. Avian still gets to sit in A because there's only a tiny, tiny bit of this laundry wall open. And to me, that screams kill hole. Why? Because you have no other pressure coming from anywhere else. Let me get those arrows again. No pressure coming from anywhere else into the site other than a couple of vertical holes here and there. And because you have no other pressure, these defenders can sit wherever they damn like, even on the site you're trying to go into, and watch this kill hole from 1, 2, 3, 4 different angles. And you want to come in from there. Yikes. I mean, Ghost even has time to barricade a door. Safely, too. Look at this. This is the angle I was talking about. This tiny kill hole that they want to go in. There's even a pulse still dancing around downstairs, and boom. And I'm actually surprised that Goddess didn't get that kill there, and that the head was not taken off. The SMG was a little high, and that's what it was, but the fact that she defaults off the angle because she now knows that line of sight is being held and they get a pre-fire, and she uses her utility instead, so smart. Because she now knows for absolute certain they want to push through there. The pulse, relaying all of the information. Again, let me point this out. They want to breach the site through this tiny hole. No one is pressuring Goddess in Art. No one is pressuring Ghost in Kitchen at all from either side. There is a buck over in bedroom. Not above, trying to give vertical support by shooting down onto Avian. No, he's all the way over there. So this is all wrong. It's all extremely wrong. Neptunes opens the castle for himself. Smart, because he needs to get back on site if he needs to assist. Goddess can sit in Memorial with her shotgun aiming at the art door. She sees the drone, which just stopped in front of her, and she now knows that they're going to push in that way. And now they're just trying to collapse on site like some last-second vitality push. There goes one. Oh, look at that. More traces coming out from someone else. So, well, there's another one there. Let me use my second last smoke, babe, to deal with that. She was unlucky on that one because Acid decided to move through as she detonated that one. But that was a good push there from Acid to really try and get the refrag there. That was smart. Now, Avian has to focus on 2 lines of sight. This push from Rise should have been done earlier. And now they're starting to get the kills. 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're bringing it down to a 3v3. Trouble is, you've got 3 C4s left on Soniqs. You've got 1 in Memorial, 1 in Laundry, and 1 still above. This is where the error was. This. Why? Because there were not anywhere near enough vertical holes open above that the Bucks should have been worried that anyone could come above and shoot down on them. Because there just wasn't enough vertical holes opened. So the Bucks should have dropped down Laundry hatch, pushed this door, whilst one pushed the hole and another pushed Memorial. That is a triple crossfire. No way you survive that. So in this instance, the Buck being up there leaves it technically down to a 2v3. And that's why they're now stuck in this really rushed position with only 25 seconds left. And in fact, it even gives Super the opportunity to go out into the hallway and sneak around to get the back of the person playing in Memorial. So there's a lot going on and a lot of freedom of movement for the Soniqs right now. Ghost gets England, which was the one coming through the kill hole. The C4 onto the castle, not my favorite, but he wanted access right then and there. Neptune then hides in the kitchen, Why? Because he doesn't need to aggress. He doesn't need to be aggressive. They've got numbers. They've got beautiful time control. And now they just sit and wait. One C4 on the pulse, another on the mute. Super's all the way out on red stairs. Look at that, a ping comes out. You know why a ping came out? Because there's Val cams and default cams still up. Rookie mistake again. They know exactly where Crazy is. And then, of course, Neptune takes out Acid, who's trying to force through Memorial, and that's all over Red Rover. In that one round of mine that I was able to go through, there is clear, consistent mistakes from the side of Rise that is gifting Soniqs these rounds. I think Soniqs is a fantastic team. I think Rise, when they're on their game, is also a fantastic team. But what happened there was Soniqs, it's not that Soniqs was playing out of this world, because they just weren't. They were just doing default turtle holds that were working well because they just weren't being pressured the way they needed to be pressured. And that's why those 3 defensive rounds easily went to Soniqs. There was a fleeting moment there where they decided to change their push through both Memorial. They were able to get the refrag onto Goddess, and they had another one coming through the little kill hole in Laundry here. But the Bucks stayed upstairs and did nothing. So unfortunately, that's where they were lacking during that pinch push. Now, of course, Soniqs gets to go back to Aviator again, which was the side they won pretty convincingly. Of course, they're just going to take the same setup they took before, because why change something that worked? And Rise, they're going to run the exact same lineup for the 4th round in a row. Now, if you're someone like me and you're watching this, you are crossing your fingers, your toes, your whatever appendages you have that you can cross, and you're going, please, Vandal, please, go underneath, get the mute in Vault. They have nothing else to stop you opening Vault if you just go underneath and you get the mute. So you're just fingers crossing. All right, we're just going to let this round play out and see what happens. And take a swig of my drink here and hope for the best. Actually, look at that. Finally, a 6-pick comes out. Super's going to get off the Jaeger, and he's going to put himself onto the Pulse. Why? Because he's been really, really effective with his intel collecting ops. He was really effective when he was on the Valkyrie. So why not put yourself on something else that they haven't been combating? They haven't been using their IQ to combat it yet. So there you go. Might as well use it again. My assumption here is that Soniqs will set up almost exactly the same way they set up in the first round. Don't expect anything crazy to come out at all. And it does, yeah. You can see. I think Goddess moved one of her cams down to the other end of 90. And if that's the case, and we'll see, hopefully. She did. Okay, that was a really, really intelligent adaptation by Goddess, and I actually didn't see that when I initially watched this game. What she did there, and I'll go back to it actually. Did I miss it? I don't know. Okay, there. You can see that on the first round, she put her Maestro cam here of playing Aviator. The second time they played Aviator, she puts her Maestro cam here. Why? Because none of them pushed this side of the map until like the last 30 seconds. There was one, I think it was Crazy on the buck on the window at one point, but they had no pressure here whatsoever. So I believe Avian on the smoke was able to knock him out, or Avian on the mute, I should say. So she goes, okay, maybe my Maestro cam will be safer down here because no one pushes this way. And what I actually need is a good line of sight down 90. So I will put it here. No one will be able to destroy it because no one pushes here. No one really pushes here. And even if someone does push here, they're not going to be able to see or get this cam. So easy. So for her, that's a beautiful adaptation. It's someone who really knows their support role well. Again, they get their shotguns on the walls. They've reinforced that singular wall again. Ghost preferring to open that entire wall again. It's okay. It might be easier for him to throw his smokes with it like that. And then the other Maestro Cam going behind B-Bomb. Now look at that. Again, the Avian, before the round even ends, is on cams. Checking where they're spawning. So is Super. Checking where they're spawning. Oh, there's Goddess as well. There's 3 of them on cams. That is a really, really great team. This is a great defensive team, because if this is a team that relies on intel like that in the first starting the round, they're serious about knowing where their opponent is coming from. Of course, again, Rise is going to opt to do a full sweep of the map. And again, Hype is going to leap on in, because my understanding is they already had drones pre-set up. The thing about Rise is that they're really good with their drone placements in prep phase. And then it kind of gets lost in translation as to what they're meant to drone, who's meant to drone what. Everyone's kind of droning. If anything, they're doing too much drone work sometimes. So that's very unusual for a team, and it does take control really quickly. This is one thing I do commend Rise on, is that they take control of parts of the map extremely quickly. And like that, they now have trophy and statue control again. And he did this exactly in the first round. This is something that you can tell is bred into a lot of the Rise players, is to follow a drone, clear it, take control, hold lines of sight. Great. They're checking 90. They can see the default cam. They can see that there is a Maestro cam down the end. And Goddess very likely going to use this intel she has, so she gets straight off cam, to shoot down the end of 90. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we all know what I want to say in this particular moment. And I've really paused it here for a heavy effect as well, because we all know that I've been saying that they've been running C4s, Pulse. Yes, okay, this time it was 6-picked, but no other round has Rise ever attempted to take bottom floor control. And heavy sighs come out from me, because of course, before the X-Kairos can even go off, it's almost the irony of it, Rise gets reminded again that they can only play horizontally. And boom, Super pops up with a beautiful C4 and takes out the only chance to get Vault open again. It's like a recurring nightmare for Rise. Absolute shocking to me that Super can sit underneath completely uncontested. Mind you, he's a Pulse and they have an IQ, but that's a whole other story. And the one hard breacher that Rise has to get in there, boom, out of commission. So if I'm one of the Rise players right now who's alive, I'm kind of like, well, PTSD. This reminds me of the first half. And there goes the diffuser, and Super sitting below like, hee. Oh, 2 drones stuck on the door of Aviator as well, because there's a mute jammer there. And Crazy again gets on the balcony to see whether or not there's any damage he can do from there. Again, no other pressure coming from South Stairs over there. So Goddess is just able to sit at the top of South Stairs. So is Avian with both an SMG and a shotgun. And Crazy's only just made his way out to the south balcony. Half of the round has elapsed. Not entirely sure what the IQ was looking for over there, but at least he has his scanner out. All right, here. Crazy spots on his drone that came in. He spots Avian here. Now, is he going to repeat his last time attempt where he goes to the window and tries to challenge a shotgun? Instead, he throws an uncooked nade into the middle of study. Okay, cool, good bait. Might give them the thought process that you are still at that window rather than coming in from the south door. But it doesn't matter because Avian has a shotgun. And it's all over again for Crazy. PTSD number 2. Now, actually, what I missed before, Maestro Cam in Aviator still up. Maestro Cam at the end of 90, finally down. So Hyper did manage to get rid of that one, and now Goddess doesn't have the intel on the 90 hallway that she should have. So good. Some utility taken out. And again, this is kind of a rendition of the first round when they all tried to force themselves through that door. It's just happening again. And Super, again, roaming on some other side of the map. Very likely to come up behind them the same way he did in the first round. This time, the thing that Rise does smartly is they use the last concussion from Hyper on his Zofia and they push in numbers. When you are kind of stuck having to force your way through one area, then the best way to go about it is to try and overwhelm the opponent with numbers and try and play off refrags. So they do. They force themselves in and they force Avian away from the line of sight he had from Study into Aviator. And now everyone's concussed and everyone's really in awkward positions to try and stop this push. Smokes is still coming out, so that is a definite worry. But Hyper manages to sneak around the really big rotate they've made, get Ghost, and hides behind the reinforcement. What he should have done was stay behind the reinforcement, but he couldn't. And gets traded out by Neptunes. And now Vandal manages to get a kill. And this is where it goes well for Rise because they'd overwhelmed the site. They'd made a chaos. They made sure they were able to get the refrags. They faked the defuse, which is perfect. That's something you should absolutely do. It panics Goddess, but she just gets that perfect peek of like that tight peek down that really open. What they should have done was planted behind the vault again, but they instead decided to choose the reinforcement. And now there's one left. They've got the Maestro Cam and they're pinging them. And then, of course, Acid is so lit that they fall to Elysian Mine, which, if the IQ went below and disposed of, would not have been there. Now, at this point, you're looking at the score and you're thinking, this is bad for Rise. Now, maybe we have to be really aware of the fact that Villa itself is it's one of the most defender-sided maps out of the entire ESL map pool. So, given the benefit of the doubt for Rise, we just say, okay, look, once this half is finished after this round, maybe this score will flip around. And I've definitely had that happen with my team, and it's something that happens all the time when you have 5 rounds of a half before it flips. So, And again, almost like a merry-go-round, we'll have Soniqs, after winning Aviator, move to Trophy. Now, what do we see here? Pretty much exactly the same lineups from both teams. Ghost on the pulse again. We're seeing Hyper shift off the Zofia onto the Ash. Goddess will stay on her Maestro. Neptune's on the Jaeger, which sometimes goes to Super. I assume he'll pick a Valkyrie or something. But he goes with the Castle. That's right, they did run the Castle on their last attempt as well. But that was down in Kitchen. So pretty default setup for both of these teams. Nothing crazy again. Although, for the love of Rise, I hope they do something crazy with their utility, because they just have to learn how to use the utility to better manipulate the map. Again, the walls get reinforced exactly the same way. The barb gets put back, further back in areas, so it can't be meleeed from those doors. Default kind of Maestro cams came out. I mean, nothing overly crazy coming out from the side of Soniqs, at least. I really like that Maestro cam, actually. It's one that's really popular on a couple of maps where you put it next to a bookshelf or something. You can shoot out the bookshelf and it can see 180 degrees. And the mutes will go on the wall again. Again, not a big fan of this. Had Rise bring a Thatcher, that would have been just negated so quickly, so quickly. Again, Super by himself, but rather than playing the Legion this time, he brings a Castle, because he goes, okay, first time I played this site and I was over here by myself, they just overwhelmed me and I had to default out. Him and Ghost had to just go back to site. Instead, he goes, I'm going to delay them even more, make them use more of their utility, because they don't really bring a lot of soft destruction that they can use properly. Then it forces them to have to use it here before they get to site. And again, Rise decide to make their almost 5-man push from a south sweep, with Ghost playing in pretty similar areas, because it's pretty predictable. If you knew first time they cleared from this side, they're going to clear from this side again. Plus, Soniqs have really vigilant defenders who get on cams and know exactly which cams are shot in the first 2 seconds. So Hyper looks pretty confident on the Ash, the way he moves in really quickly. The hot droning is really good for him too, because you can see him pre-firing where the calls came out that someone was. You can see that the IQ is getting intel as to what kind of utility is being used on the walls. He pings it to say that it's there. But if they can get drones in there, they're going to know that they won't need to open the wall like they did last time. And like that, Hyper's in. And they have control. So Super's attempt to 6-pick off of the Legion onto the Castle was actually not the right read on the mistake of what he had done. The right read was, oh, we need to have better crossfires so that when they try and overwhelm us over here, we can just, take a pick and then hopefully default out, or we can try and get a refrag or something. But instead, they used a lot of utility over an Aviator again. And unfortunately for Soniqs, they didn't analyze what went wrong correctly. They thought, oh, it's because they could get in so easily. What it was is because you gave up the room too easily. So that's why I guess Super read into that one wrong, or Soniqs read into that one wrong. And like that, there's a heck of a lot of control given to Rise really quickly. One of those rounds you expect Rise to take, given they have so much control extremely quickly. The ping comes out to say there's a castle on connector. And that's really good because Hype is trying to say, hey, let's get it open. Let's do this because I'm going to do this one. And ladies and gentlemen, if they switch to Vandal, and I'm like 99% sure of this, and he's got breaching charges, and he didn't breach charge the connector one, rather than... At this move here, when I was watching this, I thought this was a little silly because he had tried this last time they played this site, and there's no way that Rise were going to fall for it again. This time they droned from the roof, which was like extra careful. They had someone rappelling. And there was no way you get away with this. So he got punished for that so quickly, which was a beautiful adaptation and remembering that from the side of Rise. Again, they're still picking the castle to get opened, and I actually didn't check if the IQ had breaching charges. Three to be frank with you. Vandal has three breaching charges. So all they needed was for her to stand to the left or right, so the feetsies don't get shot, and open it up. And mind you, they sped up breaching charges by like double, so it's not like you're going to be standing there for a heck of a long time. And now they're just trying to force themselves through the door. Mind you, Pulse still below, IQ not finding him, blah, 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 blah. We're used to that fact now. The intel will come out. Super actually is also, and I think it's because Super's quite an aggressive player and he likes to have that freedom to move, is why you see him randomly all over the map. The castle's still there. Now, I like that the castle's still there. I would probably tell my boys to keep it there so that you don't have to watch two angles at once. You can just go in and get the plant and the castle's still up. It's protecting one of the angles that the defenders can run out at you on. So that's probably a good thing to leave it closed. If they wanted it open, it should have already been opened. So I'm not sure why they kept pinging it. Look at that. Super, you can tell he's a very big veteran of the late flank. He heard that little nomad charge sitting there and he was like, yeah, I'll just come up next to it and I'll shoot it. Beautiful. Ghost still below, of course. Super making his way downtown. The castle's still there, so that's really thrown him off. And finally, they'll get rid of the Maestro cam. But he has... Ghost, no. But he has his impacts, of course, so he can impact his way in. And this is just delaying. Super's finally going to get droned out. But when you've got 28 seconds to 30 seconds left, you're like, no way I can deal with this late flanker who is just running around wildly. No way I have time to deal with this when I don't even have my planter in the position to plant. He's just impacting, he's just parkouring this entire map. And as a result, he's able to pick up one, but England picks up Goddess. And that's a really good pick. See, and now this is what I like to see. Kill, trade. It's a back and forth. And all that he needs to do is get the C4 off. But that is what won Rise this round, I think, was because they left that castle up on the double door. Even though they were pinging it, made me think that they wanted to open it, but I'm sure someone on Rise said, no, keep it closed, it's good. They had someone get the refrag onto Super, who probably, if he was smarter, could have waited in Vault for an extra 5 to 7 seconds and then done the flank and been far more successful. He was a little bit too early with it, which gave them opportunity to sort of get into a default plant / pinch push when they pushed the site. And then they had castles in areas which I guess inhibited them from the retake that they needed to do. And now they know exactly where he is downstairs. All they need to do is hold off as he comes down and he's gone. And this what I was talking about is that the other round where Rise overwhelmed the site on Aviator, which was last round, they were pretty close in taking that round. What they just unfortunately couldn't deal with was the people over in Study. This time, they only had people looking one way at them. And that was through both, that was through Trophy. There wasn't really a lot of other angles that they had to contest with. So as a result, Rise were able to just brute force their way in, trade. One person's downstairs, and that's the pulse. And of course, you get cut off on your way back. And finally, Rise gets their first round. And that, I think in that moment, that would have given them a heck of a lot more confidence. Of course, Soniqs are aware of their mistakes on that time, and they're going to give it yet another go. Again, we're going to see exactly the same. The only person that seems to sort of shift onto another operator is Hyper. And he either picks a Zofia or an Ashe, you know? So, not much variation there. And you don't need variation if you know what you need to do with your operators. So, it just seems like Rise maybe needs a little bit of a practice in that with a couple of their players. Super picks the Legion again, because last time the castle didn't really work for him. So he decides, okay, I'm just going to stick on the Legion. Everyone else sticking to their pretty usual roles. No one 6 picks. I would expect that for going on this side again. Everyone already knows what you're going to run. Everyone already knows what you're likely to do. And again, probably a pretty default setup coming out. Yeah. And they're going to continue Ghost and Super to hold this Aviator and Games Room area. And I hope for their sake that this time they've worked out how to do it, because the castle didn't work. And Rise always take from that side. So Ghost either needs to assist better with his crossfires and stop them from pushing in, because they do the same thing every time. And actually what I liked about that was Ghost decided he was going to shoot the hot drone of Hyper and then bail out. And because Hyper relies on a hot drone, that's kind of very smart. But what I like from Hyper is that he didn't let it stop him either. See, and look at this again. They give it up in the first 20 seconds. That's a real big area of weakness of the Soniqs, I think, is that they're really good at their turtle holds. They know how to use their utility. They're really smart about it. But when they feel that they're being too heavily pressured, they get really passive. They don't try and hold areas of the map that they've put a lot of utility or reinforcements into. And that to me seems like a bit of a waste. Whereas Rise, their absolute key strength is that they get into the building and they do it confidently. And I think that's very much on the back of Hyper. Acid for the side of Rise always looks to be the one that stays out in their balcony and drones for them. So it's good that they have a dedicated droner, someone who's really confident on that role. And that's why you sort of see him out there. And that's why England always defaults out and goes on to bedroom balcony when they're done. Because that's obviously something they've practiced over and over and over again. And that's why you can see them so confidently taking that half of the map. Whoa. Oh my goodness. This is what happens when you don't really know where people are on the map. I understand Villa is a massive map. It's why a lot of teams don't like playing it, because it's too much to have to deal with. But Super, being able to on every single defensive round, run around downstairs and or upstairs, depending on the opposites of the side, shows how weak their prep phasing drone setups are, how weak their mid-game droning is. It's such a waste of a person to lose England like that, because he hasn't even been able to use his utility. And if I was England this game, at least for this half, and I had been C4'd, muted, unable to open every single wall that you're meant to open as a Hibana, I would be so incredibly frustrated. And I no doubt he was, because there has not really been a single round where he's been able to sort of open anything except for the laundry wall and kitchen. So Super gets an easy pick on England because he's just allowed to run around wherever he wants. And then, of course, Acid is able to get the trade. But had Super not been throwing his goo mine, he probably would have got that kill. So Acid's very lucky there. Good thing, though, Hyper was right behind him for the refrag. That's how you should go about it. Always have someone there for the refrag. Ghost is still below. And they should be aware of this because this has happened every single round. Not a surprise. But they don't care. So away they go. It's a beautiful angle from Neptune's here as well, because they know that's where they push in. Instead of using that angle, he just challenges it face on. And there's a C4 underneath, and that's an easy one for Ghost. Vandal does get one onto Neptune's because he was peeking that doorway really aggressively. He probably didn't need to. You could probably use that right-leaning angle through the wall that he had initially. But now that Ghost has got his C4, he can go up Astro. Feel pretty safe about it because Avian's in there. And then they can hear someone crawling behind A, and what I love about the defenders on Soniqs, or the anchors, I should say, their main support players, is that if they don't get the shot in the first burst, they fall off it and they find a better way to hold the angle. And like that, Goddess just comes bursting up. She gets 2. Acid gets 2 as well and brings it down to a 1v1, but Ghost had already made his way upstairs after using the C4, got back on site rather than being stuck down below, and that was a close round, mind you, because of the picks, but it came down to picks. When a round comes down to pure picks, where you're just trying to force yourself into a door and get picks, that shows that there's probably a lack of diversity in the way that you're pushing the side. No bedroom control. I understand England died, so you couldn't open up bedroom. But that meant that, you know, Ghost could sit wherever he wanted. Avian could sit wherever he wanted. Neptune's, had he not aggressively overpeaked, could have kept sitting wherever he wanted. Goddess was the only person that needed to really be in trophy. So it's so one-dimensional, this horizontal push from Rise, and that's probably why that first half went so dominatingly in the side of Soniqs. Now that the half flips around and Rise finally get to go on defense, this is where I expect them to get a few more rounds themselves, because Villa is quite defensive sided. So giving them the benefit of the doubt, you sort of say, okay, easy. This should be easy for them. What I do like is that they flashed the Maestro, which is really cool, and then 6 picked off onto the Echo, which is actually pretty smart considering a lot of the people on Aviator play Maestro as kind of like a default thing. You saw Goddess, she runs it pretty much every round. But by having an Echo, it's really easy to conceal it in such big rooms like that. The Neptunes does have the IQ though, and I'd be interested to see how he uses it in comparison with, say, Vandal. I also like that the 6 pick came out from Super, from the Glaz onto the Monty. Now, that's going to be extremely obvious because they're going to hear the shield a mile away, but they're not going to know which person 6 picked off. So it's not too bad. Plus, it would make them fearful of peeking certain angles because they think there might be a Glaz. Now in this one, you see the reinforcement from Rise comes out where the rotate was for Soniqs, because that one definitely covers the bar. That one definitely covers the bar. If they would get rid of this, okay. So that definitely covers that line of sight. So that's why they've reinforced that one, rather than opening it like Soniqs did. Every other sort of default reinforcement will come out again. All the walls reinforced into study. A shield coming out from Acid. That's for the tight peak onto the 90 door, I believe. Now, Hyper is one of those players who I think, one, really likes having an ACOG, just in a default gunning position likes to have the ACOG, but also worries me that he sort of plays this kind of off-site role with such a heavy player. What I'm hoping is that they work in conjunction with each other and he uses these long lines of sight over onto bedroom and whatnot to get good picks rather than playing like really up close and personal. Uses crazy to help bait, get some crossfires. Soniqs' attack here, however, is more about bringing themselves over for a study take. Now, this is almost a polar opposite of Rise. And I like that we get to see the complete opposites, how the complete opposites work. Because you got Goddess on the Habana, and that is such an important operator. We saw when England died, nothing happened for Rise. So if Goddess dies in this indication or in these engagements, then, and they don't have the walls open or anything, that could be so tough to push Aviator. So you can see them here trying to take some control. A lot of drones coming out below. Very surprised that the Monty's droning it, but better than no drones coming out. This is showing a big difference between both the teams. Soniqs going, hang on. They might have someone below. Let me drone below. More drones coming out from Soniqs to set up some good drone placements. Work out where the defenders are. Mind you, in this moment, what probably could have been done was a Claymore could have been placed here whilst Goddess watched over the top of Ghost. That would have given them extra safety whilst they try and work this out. Or they could have just had Super sit on the study door. And this is what I like. The Nomads are being put down below. Because if you put them on the stairs and like you're playing here in 90, by the time they've kind of come up here, it's too late. They're already like up, you know? So it can be too late of a warning that someone is flanking. Oh my goodness. Oh, sweet baby Jesus in a fire. There it is. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an IQ below. I have been waiting 32 minutes, 5 seconds to say it. And there it is. There is the IQ that knows how to IQ. Oh, I am exhausted. I am overwhelmed, but I am very happy to see it. And you, Neptune's good sir, get a tick of approval from Jess. Yes. Excellent. So happy about that. Of course, the Monty's just going to keep pinging some stuff for Neptunes, tell him where some of the stuff is. And he'll just stand there really menacingly for a while, trying to give some intel. Bit upset that the Monty got goo mined actually, because, you know, if you've got an IQ, you should be able to shoot them, but the IQ was way too far away to deal with that. But I argue that's something you should be definitely focused on, especially if you're a Monty. And if we go back, which I just missed, they did it. They opened the wall. They did it. Oh my God, England, take notes. No, I love you, England. This is just a really critical, and I don't want any of the teams or any of the players or the fans who are watching this to go, oh my God, she hates Rise. Like, I don't. I definitely do not. But this just shows two complete polar opposites of playing and pushing and attacking and defending. And in this particular moment, less than half the round or just coming up half the round, they've got a hole in the side of bar in games. They've got a lot of the utility being destroyed from below. They've got 5 players still alive. They've got intel coming out and drones in drone placements. They droned below, knowing that no one is below. They've got air jabs set up, and they've still got a minute 30 to play with. That shows me a experienced attacking side. You see Super trying to deal with the goo mines himself. He shouldn't really be doing that. The IQ should be dealing with that one, but he does it from kind of a safe angle, so it's okay. Okay, see, Pig's coming out here for the yokai drone. Again, Super should not be the one dealing with this. He should just stand there and try and block whilst his other teammate does it. But at least things are happening now. What's unfortunate for Soniqs is that now they're taking too much time. What needs to have happened is that the Monty needs to move up and displace the person down behind the pillar in 90. Purely out of the fact that if they don't get rid of this person in 90, they actually can't push the way that they wanted to. You can't rely on Neptunes, who actually needs to be focused on the Echo. And you can see he misses him there. And then, of course, England gets one onto Super, which is the Monty, which is horrific. And then he just goes back behind pillar. So this was a bad pinch push onto the person in 90 there, because that just wasn't going to work. What would have worked quite possibly was if Ghost had gone there, or even Avian had gone there with a air jab or something to that effect, and they'd concussed him out of there or done something or pressured him that way. But yeah, unfortunately, they just went about that the wrong way. And when you're under pressure, of course, that stuff happens. Finally, they're getting the cross angles on this hole. So generally, when you open up this hole, you want to have someone lay here and get an angle over to near billiards and near vault door. And you want to have another person lay over here, kind of, and get an angle over onto bar. So it's like a 2 full people job. And then you'd also want a claymore onto aviator door, or someone holding aviator door. So it can take up to 3 whole people just for this push. So it can be really difficult. When you've lost your Monty, that's even more difficult. Neptunes finally tries to do a pinch push, but he's by himself. It's just not going to work, unfortunately. So he has to default out of there and try and work out what kind of push he's going to do instead, because he's being challenged way too much. And then he tries to challenge it again, which wasn't the right move, but they had only 15 seconds left. So Neptune's made a wrong decision there and didn't try and push down 90 to get the kill. He would have just had to have gone for frags at that point. Someone is behind bar, though. I mean, this is where, right now, the Monty coming down and pushing onto this door here of games would have been absolutely necessary, because no one can hide behind here. No one can hide behind pool table over there. That's why Rise was able to be so effective with this one. And they did a good job, because they weren't overly aggressive with it either. Soniqs try and force themselves through a kill hole, and that's easy for Rise that round. And I think it was definitely out of the fact that, unfortunately for Soniqs, even though they had that hole open into Aviator, into Bar, I should say, in games, they weren't able to get the Monty to push down and aggress on the person in 90. So I think that's where it really went south for them, was they didn't really get the person out of that 90 pillar spot. And Rise played that pillar spot really excellently. Of course, they move over to Trophy and Statue. I love how we're only almost 1 map through. It'd be like that. We'll pause that for 1 second. I believe my manager is on his way. Someone have to let him in mid-VOD analysis, but that's okay. And you can see that, of course, Rise are looking to do a pretty damn similar setup. Getting these walls all reinforced, getting Vault reinforced as well. A lot of teams actually leave that unreinforced and use it as like a rotate in and out, because it could be a good way for them to like play an Aviator or whatnot, and they go, oh, I'm getting really pushed here. And then they go out into 90 and the person trying to come in through games can get caught off guard and whatnot, but they've decided to reinforce that. And this might be a polar opposite to what we saw from Soniqs, where Soniqs weren't able to hold this half of the map well at all. So maybe Rise have the opportunity to hold that really adeptly. And that's why you see it being reinforced so heavily from them. And bring the Monty again on Super. My hope this time being that he plays a little bit more stationary and feeds more intel rather than moves up aggressively and gets killed from behind. This is good by Goddess, because this connector window can be a really good way of stopping people from rotating out. And of course, he's checking for his Valk cams around, checking if anything's there. Nothing's there. You're good to go, buddy. Move on in. And now Super is looking around for anyone playing in bar, doing a really good job of it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, give me 1 second. And of course, on the YouTube video, you might have to skip forward maybe 30 seconds to a minute whilst I go let my manager in. I'll be 1 minute. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back. We'll continue with this, but we can see that, look at that. And I'm actually glad I came back and I was able to show you this one, because this is beautiful. You cannot replace drones 100% with a Monty, no, especially when there's so many tight corners in a map like Villa. This is a big uh-oh moment. Uh-oh, you're looking the wrong way kind of thing. And then I bet your Hype is sort of thinking to himself, oh wow, this is the freest kill of my life. So we'll let it play from here. You guys can work out what happens. Boom, dead. Now that's horrific for the side of Soniqs, because yet again they've lost their Monty really early, and that's what they were hoping they could face check everything with. Ghost, on the other hand, is able, through the wall, through all those little peek holes they made, take out England, which is a good pick as well. But of course, that kind of trade, that kind of refrag doesn't really help, because now what you're seeing is that the Jaeger is stuck in Vault. And this is what I mean by leaving Vault open sometimes and having a rotate there, is it would have given him free access to move on out. But he gets pinched in there. And actually, I think another person outside of Aviator who tried to come and assist got shot out as well. And they did. And of course, Crazy comes up from the bottom of the stairs on East Stairs. And that's a very big difference between both of the teams. I think Rise were going to hold that area of the map or die doing it. That's what their mentality was. Whereas for Soniqs, when they were holding that side of the map, when they were holding Trophy and Statue, They were like, oh, if we get pushed a lot, we don't want to die. Let's default out of there. Let's get out of there and rotate back to side. And it's such a difference in ideologies of holding the map. It shows for Rise it can work because they lost 2 and they were able to trade 2 of the most important operators on the side of Soniqs, I could argue. So for them, they got really impactful frags and it actually worked out for them. Of course, now you got Ghost on really low HP, Avian and Neptune's not going to be able to open up any of the walls. Of course, they've got the air jabs on the rotates, and any of the late flanks should be cut off by now. They've got a couple of people dead, so flank drones will be live anyway, so it'll give them a really good indication. And you can see that he's trying to shoot any of the Velt cams that are live. Moves his way up, and now they're going to make their way over to bedroom. But when you've only got 40 seconds left, you've got less than a minute, you got a 3v3, it makes it really difficult to try and get that bedroom pressure. But Neptune's is doing the right thing because they want to do a default A plant, and without bedroom pressure, it's almost impossible to do because there's too many angles that you have to watch. So Neptune's is trying his absolute best to get this bedroom pressure, but there's one person hiding in closet, and that's delaying so much time. So he finally does catch him, and there is 20 seconds. And a lot of people think, oh my God, there's only 20 seconds. But when you get the plant down, that gives you an extra time. You know, it extends the time when you're diffusing. So it's not the end of the world. And of course, Neptunes get eaten up by that smoke. But Avian starts to get the plant down because he's not quite in the smoke anymore. And you could see the defenders now panicking to try and stop it. What went wrong there was Ghost was already lit up. It was one breath of wind to get him out. And unfortunately, that's unfortunate. He does try to go for the shotgun, but for some freak nature of reflexes, Avian pulls off the diffuse, turns around, and absolutely ends Vandal's life, leaving it just down to Acid. And now they're on a 2v1, which should not have happened. And you could see one's planting here. We have the planter going down over here. And then there's a line of sight onto Acid over here. Now, when you've got 2 angles to battle with, the first one you should go with 110% of the time is the one that can shoot you, not the one who's planting and can't shoot you. You should go for the one who's for the one who could shoot you. Instead, Acid looks at the one who's planting. Now, that is the biggest mistake one person can make when they're on a 1v2 with the diffuser going down and it's the last 10 seconds. That any team on earth can learn from that is that there is absolutely no point looking at a person who can't shoot you. You may as well look to the side where someone can shoot you. Now, he very well may not have known that someone was in the bedroom angle, but, I mean, Neptunes did just kill someone in closet. So the call out should have been made. And there we go. Puts it on to match point. I think this is where Rise gets fired up as well, because you never want to be the one to lose the first map. Again, Super's going to take the Monty. And I think he doesn't care which site they have to push. He just wants to be the Monty regardless. I think after those 2 rounds of him getting absolutely decimated on the Monty, he will learn. But it's something that takes time to learn how to properly utilize Monty and his intel collection and his passiveness that he's meant to play. "100%. Someone in my chat just said, the Maestro cam gave info for Acid that IQ was the first playing passive and master, so he probably thought he can get the planner and then the IQ. You're very right. The Maestro cam was probably feeding info that he wasn't peaking. But still better to take out the person who can't shoot you and aggress on them first than to try and deal with the planter who your Maestro cam should be feeding info that they're planting. Now, interesting to me that they chose to go this bomb site because I'm not a big fan of it. I think it has so many lines of sight you can open up that can really just cut you off from rotating anywhere. So my understanding is that they're going to do a really big top floor hold of it to try and negate the fact that the site itself is really horrific to try and hold. And because it's so tricky to hold, it's also tricky to push because you don't know. 100%. My VOD analysis takes a while. Yeah, 100%. Someone in my chat just referring to before on Neptunes who was in the bedroom. Just because someone's not peeking doesn't mean it's safe. Siege is a very fast and rapid game, and someone can peek you in a mere split second, and there's no possible way for you to be confident that you can flick from one person to another that quickly. So you'd rather engage the person who can openly engage you first. Now you can see on site, there's a heck of a lot of walls unreinforced. So number one, Rise was like, I want to leave this open. I don't know why. I am a little bit confused because, you could just open this wall with a soft breach. You could open this wall with a soft breach, and you could have such a long line of sight, like all the way to here. You could have someone playing here who has the line of sight this way, and then you just have this entire control. So to me, it seems tricky. You'd have another person, of course, watching the hallway or something, but I'd probably hold it from the window. I'd probably have someone standing outside of the window. Here's my little stick figure holding his gun. Hold his little gun there, holding the line of sight onto the hallway so that no one can rotate. But that's just a suggestion. Of course, Soniqs might not be aware how to push this site. Not a lot of people are. Yes, I have a GeForce update. Sorry. Of course, you can see Neptune sort of jumping around trying to work out what is going on and how they're going to push this. But they are right in knowing that they need to get some kind of top floor control. But Neptune's, with the safety of the Monty above him, tries to sort of, but the peek from Vandal was perfect. And he gets 2 as well, which is just crazy. That was actually from underneath. So that's probably one of the really positive learning curves from Rise, is that they clearly know how to play vertically when they've practiced it. If they haven't practiced it, they don't know how to adapt into it. And you can tell that's an angle that Vandal had practiced before. And I think this is where it all starts falling apart for Soniqs, was because they split their push. So one part about this push by Soniqs is that they decided, okay, we're going to put someone down in lobby, down below, and then we're going to have the Monty push by himself up into 90 hallway, and then we'll have a couple other people in study try and push. But when you have like Ghost peeking as aggressively as he was, he didn't really have other intel other than the fact that he saw the Maestro. He had no idea if anyone was peeking him from Vault, so then he tried to swing over to Vault to see if anyone was peeking him, and they get taken out by the same Maestro who just peeked him. Yeah, that's a tough one. They could have done that a lot better. They could have waited until Super had pushed up onto the game's door and given pressure on the people inside games, and then tried to aggress into Aviator and pinch all together. It seemed a bit disconnected. One person doing this, one person doing this, and it wasn't really timed and coordinated correctly. And of course, Goddess and Super, all they have left to do is try and clean up with some kills, and they're not able to connect. And Monty going for that aggressive play, unfortunately, wasn't to be. And as a result, Sonic splitting themselves way too thin on one side of the map like that just really was not the play. Now, of course, now they get to go back to Aviator and Games Room. One that they'd be pretty confident with. He's going to do the same 6-pick. Probably not necessary, but at least a 6-pick comes out. And Neptune 6-picks off the IQ onto the Buck. And I know exactly why he's done that. And that's an adaptation thing because he knows someone's going to play behind 90 pillar. And if they're going to play behind the pillar in corner of 90 there, then what better way to flush him out than to nade them? I think that's a great adaptation. It's something that they know someone's going to do. They don't know how to counter. Therefore, you bring something to counter it. And I think that's probably why you see Neptune's fragging out so much is because every time I see him doing something with his utility or his play or something like that, there was actually only one time I really could criticize him on defense when he was playing Jaeger, being, overly aggressive when he didn't need to hold that particular angle twice. Every other time he's been really careful with the angles he holds, the peaks he does, the way he uses his utility. So it's not surprising that he has, such a good KD up there. What I like here is the Vandals open up all the floor of study there to make it look like someone's going to be playing below to stop anyone from being able to put any Excaros or anything on that wall. Whether or not someone actually plays below, given verticality not being Rise's super strong point, whether it's just a threat that someone will. And of course, that Doc again, playing in that 90 that we said. And Neptune's, like I said, going to make his way there and see whether or not he can frag by the looks of it. They're actually going to use an entire air jab on that window. There is an ADS, and look at that. Avian's going to deal with the ADS instantly. He knows that Neptune's has said, I want to nade this person. So he therefore goes, no problems. I'm going to give you an air jab below. I'm going to cook the ADS for you. And then you go do your thing. That's teamwork. So far, Super on the Monty hasn't been anywhere near effective whatsoever. Be interesting to see how they utilize him in this round. Neptune's knows that someone's there, but he's being really careful. And Soniqs are a really careful team. And I think Neptune's has decided that instead of aggressing by repelling on the 90 window and throwing a nade that way, instead he's just going to go underneath and see if he can buck from underneath, which is a really good vertical play. Look at that. Look at that teamwork. What I think was said right then and there, and I don't even need to be in the Discord or the TeamSpeak or whatever they're using to know, was Neptune's would have said, can someone ping the end of 90 so I can buck underneath? Teamwork. And whether or not Super is actually really making much of an advance or doing the proper support role with the Monty, that in itself is a really, really good way to assist in the team. He keeps pinging it, but no one's there. So he tries to get the free nade kill, and then he's just going to buck underneath, and that's going to force the Doc back. They should have, unfortunately, droned it first. See what Super's doing now? He goes, oh, no one's there. He's actually further over. And unfortunately, what they're doing is they're wasting too much time. What they actually needed was someone to stand outside 90 window, throw a drone in, or drone it like Super did from the end of 90 hallway, where Super is now, and say, oh, he's standing in the corner, he's standing behind the pillar. That would have sped things up like crazy. But unfortunately, they're wasting a heck of a lot of time trying to force him out. It's good to see Neptune's using his skeleton key for the purpose of verticality and destruction. At least there is some use coming out of it. Unfortunately, it's quite late into the round. This should have been done a heck of a lot earlier because you've got guys like Goddess and Avian really stuck over on the side of Study and whatnot. They finally get that Study wall open, but there's less than a minute left. They haven't been able to take any picks on anyone. They weren't able to get the person at the end of 90. They probably should have had someone repel 90 window whilst Neptunes went underneath and provided vertical pressure. But at the moment, they're really stuck. They're not getting any picks. They're not able to force their way in. Aviator's a notoriously difficult site to push because you can essentially turtle there and then have a pretty good time. So Super at the moment on the Monty has been able to do, unfortunately, nothing. And now they're just stuck holding angles, not able to force their way in. Smoke's come out onto Super. And of course, boom. Hype is able to get him from the end of 90 because he can't look all the ways. He gets Neptunes as well, so he's repelling upside down. Ghost is going to try and redo another peak. Avian does get hyper, but it's all over. I mean, they've got the Echo drone pinging everyone. They're getting Legion Mine. They're getting shot from the end of 90. There's so many angles they have to watch that they can't watch. And it's just lucky out of the fact that they weren't watching the right way that they were able to get those kills. And that was a really close round, only out of the fact that they were able to get some really good kills. People not watching the angles they should have been watching. And there was a lack. There was good utility from people on the side of Soniqs that needed to use their utility. But for example, if you're the Monty, you could smoke down the end of 90 hallway and block the line of sight of the dock. Or you could smoke the door of Aviator, of Games, I should say, and get someone to destroy the barbed wire and move all the way down and pressure the person in 90. So the person on 90 window might be able to get a free kill. There's a lot of ways to use the Monty, but instead Super stands in one corner for 2 minutes straight. So it's really difficult for me to be able to praise Soniqs in any way on their attacks because they're just not having the right lineup. And even when they did have Neptune switch onto the Buck, which was the right decision to do because the IQ wasn't that necessary, because no need to get rid of the Echo if you can't even get on side. And overall, I think that particular lineup needs a rework because their ability to push this side is so inhibited by people just holding one line of sight. They need pinch pressure. They need someone somewhere else to assist with that. Now they get to go to trophy and statue again. Both teams putting in a heck of a lot of kills purely out of the fact that almost none of the rounds had turned around objective based. They've turned around almost always kill based. So that's probably out of the nature of this map being very hard to be time efficient. And a lot of engagements coming out from both teams. I'm always so interested in this shield that they do because I know why they do it, and it's to block that line of sight, but also let them freely move in without having to vault over the shield. So it's an interesting one. I don't know how necessary it is to them because obviously they want to be able to play someone over in trophy like really safely, but no one really has been able to take bedroom control properly thus far. So probably something they shouldn't be too afraid of, but it's not as if the shield needs to be used elsewhere anyway. We'll see if Super can actually assist this time with the Monty. Goddess. You know what? I actually preferred when Goddess was right up on the connector window rather than holding that super long angle that she was holding. Because holding that super long angle, I believe this, with a gun like the Type 89, is not a great decision. Because you're gonna only get a few nicks on someone. Unless you get that headshot, it's not always gonna be a confirmed kill, like as if you were standing on connector there. So I argue this is probably not the best angle to hold. So this is where they need numbers. They know they need numbers. They don't need Super trying to be an aggressive Monty. They need him to be the intel Monty. And actually, after the drone comes out, Rise actually just defaults out of there. They give it up. They fake the fact that they're in there. And it wasted a heck of a lot of time, which is crazy. So it actually worked for them. That Claymore, generally you'll put it further back so you don't see it from 100 million miles away, but that's okay. And then the rest of Rise, of course, get to sit pretty comfy on site, waiting for the push to happen. Hyper's holding the bottom of Astro stairs, which is really important because it's the only other entrance to the site other than where they've been pushing over on East stairs. And now Goddess makes her way over to bedroom. And it surprised me that no one from Rise sort of tried to like hold that area. Like you can see someone in bathroom there, the Valk of crazy, but no one's really heavily holding it. So I like the fact that they kind of got line of sight onto where the Excaros would go on the bedroom wall, on the triple wall, and they're not aggressing it too much. And that was a beautiful peek there by Ghost. Yeah, I really liked that he read into that. Of course, unfortunately, Ghost gets taken out by a C4. I'm not sure why Super didn't turn around to try and play it with his shield to the back. But a good read into the fact that there was a flank. And for some reason, Neptune's thought he would pull out his cassette rather than try and find it with his primary weapon. But it didn't matter because Goddess came in through bathroom around Astro and she was able to take Acid out anyway. But I mean, in that moment where you've got so many lines of sight looking at you and you've got to get rid of a yokai drone, the best thing to do is to just try and find it with your primary. You can generally see it because it doesn't go invisible when it jumps up straight away, so you can generally see it. But instead pulled out the cassette, tried to IQ it, and that wasn't the play. So especially when you're on site like that and you're in a pretty dangerous situation. So, and that first map goes to Soniqs pretty convincingly, purely out of the fact, I think, that Soniqs were gifted a lot of freedom of movement on a map like Villa, which should not be allowed. Should absolutely not be allowed. And that's why they got that first map. Ta-da! Now, I do want to put it like a big disclaimer over my analysis. I'm a pretty blunt kind of person. I say it like I see it. It wouldn't matter who the player was, if it was one of my players, if it was one of my close friends, and a lot of people are like, oh no, you ragged on Vandal so much and everything. He played a great game, especially on his defensive half. But as an IQ, he is not adept at it. And that's why a lot of my criticism came out, because on the side of Rise, they didn't know how to take any vertical control on attack. They only know how to play horizontal, and they lost so many defensive or attacking rounds because of it. So it's 100% why teams have to be able to go back on their VODs and say, what did we do wrong here? How did we die all the time? How did we lose our ability to open walls every single round? And it was just out of pure silly mistakes. And that's why I think Soniqs were able to take their map pick so confidently. And had Rise had those little things that they needed to do, they might have been able to take or at least push Soniqs into a much harder matchup, because that was their map pick. So someone in my chat just said, Rise is not an attacking team. Their new coach focuses too much on their defense, which, you know, all coaches have their specialty. All coaches, of course, are not perfect. And it also comes down to the team. And I think that even if Rise is just a purely attacking team, which they definitely do seem very confident on their attacking side, I will give them that. I don't think it's enough excuse to make simple mistakes like that with things like IQ, not bringing a Thatcher, whatever it might be. Or if you don't want to deal with the utility, putting an exothermic next to the wall, which will blow it open. Simple things like that, which make it so much easier for the attackers to get in. Then, yeah, 100%. Now, are we ready to move on to the next map? Dun, 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 dun. The map that won Soniqs, or scored Soniqs, their spot back into Pro League, I should say, because a lot of them were previous Pro League players. So let's move into it. All right, this next map is Oregon. And if you know my team, Penta, it is one of our best maps in our entire map pool. One we've beaten countless teams on. So it's also a very hard map to analyze, because there's probably 50 different reasons why a team does something or puts something somewhere, and you never really can know why unless you ask them about it. So it's not one of those maps like Villa where you reinforce default walls all the time. You do this, you do that. There's 100 ways to play it. And because it's a tinier map, you have to find more adaptation, more ways of going about it. So, but not surprising to me, Habana gets banned. I like that. It really forces teams into having to use the Thermite or the Maverick, which I really like. And then the Thatcher, which I thought was the biggest meme in the world. The fact that both Habana and Thatcher were banned out. Now you are forced to bring a Maverick, because I guarantee you they're going to play a Kaid. No way in the world. Then, of course, the Mirror ban comes out. Soniqs, known pretty predominantly for banning Mirror, default ban. And then Rise decides to ban Kaid. Oh, my heart, my goodness. Why, when Thatcher was banned, did you ban a Kaid? Thatcher was banned, you start defense, and you ban the one thing they cannot get rid of without using a Maverick. To me, it seems like Rise did not think it through. It's as if Rise went into these games going, our default bans are always going to be Kaid, no matter what the other team bans. And that was so silly of them, because when the Thatcher ban came out, they could have turned around and went, oh, well, boys, we start on defense. And given that, you know, we can hold, like, especially downstairs really well with Kaid, I mean, we should probably go about that. I mean, even upstairs, bedroom, you put a Kaid on it without a Thatcher or whatnot, really difficult to get in there. So the fact that they ban the Kaid blows my mind. This banning phase blows my mind, especially when they started defense. So, crazy. But of course, Kaid gets banned out. And now you could just bring a Thermite. It doesn't matter. Just bring a Thermite. Of course, the mute jammer on the table is so easily disposed of these days. I think teams rely on it too much. But like, if you're a team like ours, you've played Oregon like 180,000 billion times, you already know how to get rid of the mute. One of my chat just asked me, would you say Soniqs won the ban phase then? I would say yes. I would say Soniqs banning the Thatcher, which is what we used to do a lot. I don't think they expected Rise to then ban the... I mean, if if you think critically, you don't expect someone to then go ban the Kaid, because if they're starting on defense, that gives them full hatch control. Plus, you could put a mute underneath, and then that forces the Maverick on a team who may not have practiced with a Maverick. So, I don't know. Very possibly at that moment, Soniqs were feeling a heck of a lot more confident. Goddess, rather than going on her Hibana, which she can't take, she'll just take the Thermite because it's easier to do. Some of my chat just asked, if Rise had used Kaid, do you think the end result would have been different? I think they would have had a much better time on defense, yes. And then they also asked, who would have Rise, or who should have Rise banned then? The usual Echo or Maestro? Yes, because Maestro is very hard to get rid of on the bottom floor side. Not so much on the top floor side, you can get rid of pretty easy, but on the bottom floor, there's a lot of places you can hide Maestro cams, and they're really good for intel. I mean, yeah, like it's hard to say. Echo as well is one that really isn't liked on Oregon, especially downstairs. So, But I mean, let's see if they 6-pick off. Okay, no one 6-picks again. I will say it again. If you're a team, Challenge League, Pro League, and you think not using the 6-pick functionality is okay, especially in the first round, I mean, why not bait you going upstairs? Why not bait the castle? I mean, let's say Hyper. Hyper could have baited going castle, 6-pick off, pick the Vigil. Why? Because then they would have thought they were going upstairs. It's those little tricks that you can do. And then someone else could have gone, oh, well, I think they're going upstairs. I'll 6-pick off onto the IQ. Something like that could have been enough to switch someone off of an important operator or an operator that they're more comfortable on. And it's about these mind games. And the fact that they're not playing it is really one-dimensional. Bottom floor first. Not really surprised. Like I said, I figured they would rely on that mute jammer, which they are. Generally, though, which I don't like. I don't like when teams put really integral parts of their utility down first. And that's not for me to say that, oh, they wouldn't notice the Twitch drone or they wouldn't notice this. I just think that when Crazy comes back, and he might mute, he can't mute Trick because the Thatcher's banned, so I don't know, he just whatever. But I just don't think, given I feel like I'm stuttering my words here. What I don't understand from Rise is you go, in your mind, you go, Thatcher's banned, so they can't get my mute gem. Awesome. But we also banned Hibana, so they're going to use a Thermite, so they're going to have to shotgun open the wall, and then they probably just bring a Maverick, and then, to me, it just overcomplicates the whole thing. They could have just had a Kaid and a mute. So, I don't know. Kaid and or a mute, I should say. So, of course, he has to shotgun open the wall so the Thermite can't place the Thermite charge on there and blow open the hatch without worrying about the mute. Vandal is going to assist by reinforcing stage, and it looks like they're going to do a meeting hold / attic hold. Like, it seems so complex to me that Rise wants to run a strategy of a meeting hold after banning Hibana, after banning Kaid, and forcing them into using a Maverick or a Thermite, and then shotgunning out the walls so they can't Thermite, and forcing them down the main stairs, but they also want to run a meeting hold. It's so complex for almost no reason, when they could do a pretty close turtle hold with the same effect. Now this, and I'm going to try and draw this here, this right-hand side reinforcement, which has been the default for like so long, is now not the default. It is simply just not the default. Why? Because from the hatch, a Cap Tower can now shoot a bolt here and it flames the entire room. So the fact that they haven't even changed their default reinforcement, now what you need to do is you need to reinforce this wall, keep this one soft, and then reinforce this wall and put the rotate here so that if you get flamed in here, you can run out. But to me, it's like Rise is using very old strategies and they saw the Capitao. So I don't understand, to me, why. Why? If no one plays in here, then fine. Then that's okay. No problems at all. You can do whatever reinforcement you want. But it just seems silly to me that you would have it that way. They're pretty late setting up. They've got a lot of holes everywhere. There's people still reinforcing. I mean, you can tell that Oregon is not a comfortable map for them. You've even got one side of the wall unreinforced into blue. So I am particularly worried about the setup. It makes sense because even if they do open it up and whatnot, you've got a meeting hold and you've got someone watching over it anyway. So I can see why the reinforcement needs to go somewhere else. But I mean, if that's the case, just take this reinforcement away and put it somewhere else. As you can see, Super feeling really confident about being able to open that with a breaching charge now. I'd like to see what the people off site are doing. Obviously, I can never control the camera, so that's not my... And then he places an air jab there, which is super, super good. I hope he, and you can't really see it, but I hope he placed it high up so it can't be seen from the hatch. And that stops anyone from rotating back without being super loud. Avian, Neptunes, they already got tower control. Why Rise wanted to have so much map control and then not hold it is beyond me. Because if you don't have attic control and you want to do a meeting hold, then you have no control. So at the moment, Rise technically, even though they've got so much of the map opened up, have pretty much no control. No control over meeting, no control over the front. And Neptunes just walks in there as the buck and goes, alrighty, no problems, I'll take control of attic, which you're meant to be taking control of. And I'll hold it. And now we have meeting control. And you could see Soniqs is such a passive team as well. Like, they're taking their time with this, even though they don't need to. Now, the reason Neptunes is droning out that hatch is because it's an easy one to nade from. You can nade anyone under the reinforcement or near the shield. So, and there he goes. He knows someone's behind that shield. The nade gets cooked. Ah, okay. So that's what they were hoping for from there. So we can see this one again. This is what Rise were hoping they could hold meeting with. A tiny peak hole from a hatch over onto meeting, which is so not enough. You have to have attic control. I can't stress it enough. Oregon is such a difficult map if you do not have attic control and you want to do a meeting hold. Now, I'm not sure what is stalling Soniqs out for so long, because they technically have this attic control. They could actually go put someone over an armory, like laying down with like a punch hole or something like that, and they could just hold that entire side pretty easily, have someone repel into armory or whatnot, and then no one has to worry about anyone peeking into attic from bedroom side. And then they could just freely run around, yada yada, someone hold the hatch on kids / the pantry, and it's pretty easy. But instead, they've got Avian holding the super long angle on it, which is fine. You can have someone holding the flank this way instead of from that way. I mean, either way, you're able to see here, or you can do it from all the way over an armory. Here, doesn't really matter as long as no one can get this hatch control either way. But they're taking too long with it. Now, what worries me initially was that Avian was the one holding the flank when he's needed for the execute. So you need the thermite, because obviously support has the diffuser needs to get there for the plant. You also need your smokes and your bolts. And those two plays are not ready for the execute. So Neptune's getting that initial pick. Good. He's able to hold it from here. A bit of a tight peak, but a good shot should manage that one. Now they try and make their way in from the back. One's going in from the front to hold the flank. Or actually, Super's decided that he's going to pressure from the front whilst they're all focused on the back, which is a really good way of going about this site. Avian takes a pick onto Hyper. And that was the other one who was roaming. And then Super, as he comes down the stairs, takes out Vandal, who Vandal should have been focusing on the execute coming in from the back. See, now they're all cuddled up in the closet area together, stuck. The smoke's coming out. Goddess is waiting for the smoke to dissipate. She runs in. She decides she's actually going to go plant in the corner, which is a really good... It's becoming one of the new default plant spots as well, because you actually can't get shot there from the side of boxes over here, or you can't get shot from closet. Some people struggle to throw a C4 over as well, so this spot over here is sort of staying the default at the moment. But you can plant in either spots, and Goddess sees that there's an opening, better to go there, and she sees they're smoking this spot. So instead she tries to plant over there. She does get connected by the C4 though, but it doesn't really matter. They actually think about picking her up, but there's no need. You've got a 4v1. Just get someone else to plant and hold the two angles. Now, one big issue, blaring issue to me here, is that the Maestro cam is still up in the hallway. That's one thing that should have been Ghost's job. He should have known that his job was to get rid of the Maestro cams. And on bottom floor, like I said, Maestro cams and Evil Eyes are really powerful. They're really powerful. They can be put in really deep spots. The pockets give a lot of line of sights, and they're getting pinged the whole time. So what they really needed to have done was had Ghost get rid of that, but they're lucky that a lot of the shots connected from a lot of the Sonics. And what really was the downplay for Rise that round was that they wanted to hold so much of the map. They wanted to have this entire map freedom. They opened up everything. They opened up Attic. And then they all just cuddled up in dorms. They gave up Attic, which is the number one spot you must hold if you want to do a meeting hold. And they got stuck in bedroom. So they got cornered off in the map. And they didn't even need to do it, considering that they could have just done a turtle hold, considering the bans. So, a tough one to say why Rise went that way. What went wrong? Was there something that we didn't see off screen where they got cut off from Attic and they couldn't come back? Or were they just never in there? Of course, Rise not changing to go upstairs, opting to go back downstairs. This time, have a pulse to play with. And they got the Echo. So double plant denial here. And on a bottom floor like this, a double plant denial can be so crazy. Can be so hard to deal with. So I kind of like that they've brought that. And again, Goddess and the rest of her team and Soniqs rocking the same lineup. I think they would run that lineup regardless if it was top floor or bottom floor, because it works for both. And wow, by the look of that one reinforcement on blue, it looks like Rise wants to do exactly the same setup. There goes the shield again from Maestro. I'm seeing a lot of operators upstairs. This Maestro cam is a bad idea. And I'm going to show you exactly why. Let's go back. This Maestro cam here, and you've opened the hatch. All I have to do as a Buck or a Zofia is go bip, and it's dead. So, not a great Maestro cam. You actually see Vandal. Think about it for a second. Think about putting it back over there where he put it last round and go, Oh, wait. Let me put in this random spot. Yeah. Someone in my chat just said, that's triple plant denial if you count smoke right. 100%. It's every single operator on the side of Rise is a plant denial. You've got a C4 on mute. You've got a yokai drone. You've got a C4 on pulse. You've got smokes, and you've got the maestro cam. So overall, you've got a heck of a lot of both intel and plant denial. So if anything, Rise is set up to win this round. Given that in itself. This maestro cam, a little bit scary. But if Soniqs don't go about destroying it, then it can be really bad. Now, look at that. They actually placed both maestro cams looking towards B. None of them looking towards washing machine. So if Soniqs decide to change up their push and push from the front stairs, there's no maestro cams watching it. Super's drone just chilling. Okay, here we go again. Neptune's is in tower in the first 30 seconds. And I don't see him being contested at all. That to me is so insane that you want to do a meeting hold, but you don't want to hold Attic at all. He has complete control of it now. Players are isolated yet again all the way over in dorms. Okay, we've seen right there. One, two, three, four players back on side. I don't understand why Rise thought they should open up all of the hatches for Soniqs, everything for them. Attic, just give it to them for free and then default back to site and keep one person off site. It's almost as if Rise has no idea how they want to defend bottom floor, even though that's their preference. The wall gets fully opened up by Goddess, so you can actually have the proper line of sight over into the corner. And there's a lot of players who are now playing an A side. So it's one of those things where, okay, good. No one started challenging them here. That's fine. They can also hold stairs because they've got Barb and they've got two people waiting there. So they actually have a pretty good line of sight. They've got the Maestro cam and whatnot. Not that that can really see over right onto the door. It can only see on the boxes. And see, Soniqs has over a minute left. They're still worried about top floor. I argue they didn't have the right drones set up in prep phase to really deal with the roamers. They knew how they set up in first round. They should have had a couple of drones set up on, you know, white stairs or somewhere else to work out if anyone rotated out or not, whatnot. And they could have worked that out pretty early. But instead, no one's sort of droning it. No one's working out if anyone's still playing up there. And I believe the Maestro cam got destroyed there from the hatch from the buck with the nade, just as I predicted. on that little door frame there, so it's actually gone. And look at that, Ghost. Really good utilization, getting rid of that shield. No one can now play in hallway. And now they're all restricted to A side. You either flank or you push through 2 lines of sight. And that's insane to me. It's insane to me that Rise would let themselves get so bunched up like this. They're wasting a lot of time though, because none of them are actively aggressing or peeking Soniqs. So it's a 50-50. Goddess moves in. I'm not sure why she moves straight into the smoke there. And these pre-fires from Ghost are so good, so good. And he gets to shoot the smoke midway through the air. A C4 does connect with Goddess right at that moment, but it doesn't matter. When you got a plant down like this, and you only have to hold like 2 or 3 lines aside, this should be easy for Soniqs. You'd have to miss a lot of your shots for that to go wrong. Easy pick there. Super actually gets downed. That's from an aggressive peek. The yokai drone shoots up. You got hatch control. That takes out Vandal. Hyper is able to take out Ghost. It is a back and forth, but the diffuser is so safe at the moment. And that's surprising to me there that Neptune's wasn't able to get that kill. And that's a little bit of a giggle. Little bit of a giggle way to end that, because quite seriously, we go back. Super was down. Had they have known that, and they killed Avian now, he may have had, with the skin of his teeth, enough time to defuse. Skin of the teeth. So it's a little bit of a giggle finish there, and a good way to finish it. I'm surprised, like I said, surprised Neptunes didn't get the kill with his buck skeleton key. He aimed a little bit low, so a lot of the bullets didn't connect, but what went wrong there? Yet again, a bunch of the map given to Soniqs. Given Soniqs are a team that take their heckin' time anyway, why you would do that is beyond me. What you should actually do is really stall them out. Like if you're going to open up Attic, you're going to play from kids' dorms, you're going to do A, B, C, and D, at least try and put some effort into stopping them from taking meeting, because once they have meeting, they have all the control that they want, because they do the same push. They do the back push each time. So if this is the control they need, they don't need bedroom control, they don't need front control, then they're not going to push it. So why play it? So because Soniqs are such a passive team and because they take their time, if you were Rise and you were thinking smart enough counter adaptation wise, you would turn around and go, hang on, we actually need to hold tower. Or hang on, we should hold tower and then default back to Attic and reinforce Attic and then force them to use an exothermic on Attic. And then we'll rotate back and we'll go to Dorm's hatch, and then we'll drop down into pantry and delay, because quite honestly, Soniqs, even with all this map control that they get really early on, are taking a lot of time to get the plant down. So if Rise was smart, they would have just given more pressure, stalled them out even more, so that the people on site who are anchoring could just turn around and go, oh, well, they've only got 10 seconds left. I can C4, I can smoke, and they won't be able to get it down. That would have been the way to go about it. Now we finally see them move after losing downstairs twice. Third time is not the charm, and they move themselves upstairs. And a good lineup coming out from both sides. Again, same lineup. Like I said, I knew they'd do pretty much the same lineup that they ran downstairs from Soniqs. But of course, you'll see Rise, they want to bring the pulse out of this one. A rook for the ACOG. And actually, no. Crazy decides the pulse isn't the way to go. Gets onto the Jaeger, which Jaeger is really good on this side. What worries me is if they play downstairs and they don't have a pulse, That would be strange. They don't have a castle either for the windows or anything like that. So I'm not sure how they going to hold kitchen or kids' dorms, especially if those windows get open. They start getting pressured from outside. Because it does look like England is going to reinforce the bathroom wall to stop the White Stairs peak. It does look like they want to do an attic hold. An attic and a big tower hold. I say that, but whether or not Rise actually do it is a whole other story. So they've opened both sides of attic there, and it looks like they want to do a big tower hold. Super has his drone under mattress, I think, which is one of the most obvious places people put their drones. The fact that his drone survived that is hilarious. And you can see a couple of them setting up to go do a tower take. I mean, you've got Goddess on the thermite. You might as well do a tower take at that point. So no one's playing top tower, so that's easy for them to take top tower. Someone's playing mid and bottom tower. But if you repel in top tower and there's no pressure, then you could just aim down on mid and bottom tower. See? So just like we see Avian here. Less than 30 seconds. And they want to do an attic and tower hold, but they don't want to hold it. They just want to hold it from far away. So now Avian has full top tower control. Neptune's is yet again at the side of attic. And what a surprise! No one's in attic to stop him. Neptune's is having an absolute field day because he doesn't really even have to do anything. It's just given to him. There's a lot of barb, there's a lot of reinforcements, but there is no one there to stop them. It's amazing to me how many times Rise has decided to open up the map and almost gift it to Soniqs. Amazing. Now some dorms window pressure coming out. Goddess didn't even have to do anything with attic. She looked at attic and was like, I'm not needed here. They already gave it to us later, so I'm going to go do some double window pressure. I mean, amazing. Amazing, amazing. Oh, okay, that was silly there. They should have known that there was an ADS in there. Even though the Jaeger was 6-picked, they should have had Super throw a flash in there to work that out of Goddess. Oh. He's down. Get him, boys. And I believe he gets picked up. See, that's one thing you can do as a teammate is if you have a buck or a sledge or whatnot and they're actively trying to nade someone, you can hold down tab and see if their points go up. And if their points go up after the nade's been thrown, then you know someone's downed. And then you can actively try and be more aggressive to get the kill. It was a good effort of that C4 as well, because had they been repelled up closer, it would have been easier for them to get that kill. And it's funny, actually, that you see Avian go back and check. He's actually actively watching the run out. Now, what a lot of teams will do instead is they'll put a claymore. I'll try and give you a little picture here. They'll put a claymore on top of these bins here. Like that. And you actually, it's so difficult to shoot it. Some teams like Team Empire will put 2 claymores. One on the ground, one on the bins, and you can't like impact both. So yeah, it's interesting that he's decided to actively hold that instead. And what they've decided to do from below is do a kitchen hold with vertical holes from underneath. So if anyone repels in, you can shotgun them as they repel in because you've got the vertical holes there. So to combat that, you actually need to go into dining and kitchen. Otherwise, you just get shot as you repel in. So with only 35 seconds left, Soniqs either need to rework out their plan, because there's every one of Rise Nation still alive, and they're still taking their heckin' time, but they're playing the objective 100%. See, and Soniqs don't exactly know what to do. They could smoke off the vertical holes, but Goddess is, yeah, she's being watched from below, and so is every other teammate. Look at that. It really came down to the fact that even though Rise had done a really unconventional tower hold where they opened it all up and then just defolded out of there like instantly, didn't even give any pressure, and then they went back to site, their turtle hold of site was really successful. They played down in kitchen, they played down in dining, they had the vertical holes. The person playing in dorms should have dropped down the hatch earlier when they heard the nades cooking and stuff like that, but they got picked up anyway. I think overall what really worked for Rise was that none of them overpeaked. None of them fell bait to the fact that people were trying to repel in dorms, but Goddess actually wanted to plant double window. They were really passive and vigilant, and they waited and they got the kills in a flurry, as you can see as the kill feed. So yeah. Oh, look at that. Easy as you'd like. Acid didn't even have to almost waste an entire mag. Easy, easy. So that one was a really easy round by Rise. Moving back downstairs, hoping that third time's the charm, Rise will play the exact same operators. Oh, but this time they're going to whip out the castle. This time, I'm hoping they've learnt from their mistakes and they go, hang on, we aren't stopping them and we're just giving them all this control. Maybe we can stall them out a little bit longer because Soniqs take so long to take map control. And does, again, those reinforcements coming out shows me that they want to do the exact same hold. This and this. If he castles this, which I'm hoping he doesn't, is horrific because Super has done the same thing every time and opened up blue. So if anything, that would help them. But the castle coming down to block the tower push, okay, that's a tiny bit of adaptation. Shows that they're aware that they do a tower push. Not super sure about it, as you could just get Zofia to open it up, and it's not like that's going to be too much of a waste anyway, because Neptune's been using his nades to destroy the Maestro camps. And again, added control given up. Neptune's just casually walks in there because he knows it's going to be the same way again. He doesn't even have to look. And, oh, Vandal taken by surprise. Well, I don't even understand how that happens. I mean, okay, we said this from the beginning. If you want to open all the hatches in meeting, you got to hold above it. No one holds above it. Okay, fine. Rise want to do some peculiar hold. They want to do some weird thing. But that kill that he got all the way from one hatch down through the other hatch is ridiculous. That would never happen. That would never ever happen. And the fact that it did happen shows that not only are Rise taking way too long to set up their defensive setups, and when they bring in that adaptation, everyone took even longer to set up their defense, but Neptunes was able to get a free kill on one of their most important operators. So, insane. Again, hyper and crazy, playing over in bedroom and whatnot. They know every time they've played downstairs and they played over in these rooms that no one has pushed them, but they continue to play here. Finally, crazy doing some kind of that. Okay, let's go back and let's watch that again. He sees the head. Let's go. Crazy sees the head of Neptunes. Okay. He can't shoot him because there's obviously clipping of the sandbags there that is covering his ability to have his head be shot. So instead, he decides to use a C4. The C4, all he needed to have done was thrown it on the wall here. Direct impact. Instead, he throws it all the way over there. That's a bad arrow, but you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so there's that. Now, for whatever reason, Neptune has no idea where that even came from. He does ping the wall to say, hey, someone's there, and the shotguns come out and he starts pre-firing, but he has no idea how close to death he was. The fact that Crazy wasn't able to connect that is also crazy. There's a bit of discussion going on in my chat right now about KDs and their relevance in Pro League, and I guess to add a little bit of comment, even though it does break the sort of VOD analysis, put a little bit of comment into that, is that, you know, KD isn't everything, obviously. You know, you've got everyone on their certain roles, support, flex, frag, and whatnot. If you're a fragger, obviously having a high KD shows your ability, etc. But I argue there are far more important things in Siege than a KD, and especially at a Pro League level, you're already able to shoot at a competent level. So it's never an issue about shooting. It's always an issue about, are you in a right position to refrag? Are you given the right intel? Do you have utility in play and things taken away that you need to do your job? So it's all about everyone doing their job on their role rather than people fragging out. Interestingly enough, we see the air jab get placed on a soft wall. That's a bit of a funny one there. I like it though. It actually should have been placed here. But I mean, when you're in a bit of a flurry and a panic, they get shot out wherever. Nades come out as well. And that's Rise's first attempt to challenge the people in meeting, which is really good because it's actually stalling them out even more than they had initially been stalled out. So Neptune's dropping off Attic is a really bad idea because that opens it up. Yes, they've got an air jab on there. Yes, they'll know if someone sort of goes up there and Super's sort of able to do what he needs to do. But no one's pushing into meeting to combat them. No one's trying to do anything. That shield gets naded again. Everything happening again. And unfortunately for Soniqs, even though they're gifted half of the map with only a little bit of stalling out there by Crazy on the mute, they still take way too long to try and get that execute off. It's almost like the vitality push where they push the last, 10 to 15 seconds and Goddess is trying to make her way in. The smokes come out. She actually forces her way into the smoke. And England picks her up as a result. And a beautiful shot again from England. And this is where you needed someone to pop down that hatch and do that. And that's what he's been able to do. Neptunes takes over the defuse, which is perfect. He baits it. But, I mean, Crazy and Acid, they were just too onto it. No one was peeking before the execute needed to go down, and that's what forced Soniqs to actually push through the smoke and got us to try and get the plant. But that round was too close, and I think it came out to the fact that Soniqs were out of time. Is that they're taking way too long, even though they have the map control they need. They just take way too long to bait the smokes out, and then they're left having to try and plant in the smoke. There's also another argument in my chat at the moment about people who don't have a good KD. Generally, like they're not considered good players. I mean, that's for at least 2 players of my team. That's complete bumpkiss because we have a dedicated planter, and our main support, he's not there to kill. He actually is not meant to ever kill anyone. He's there to drone, and he's there to get the plant down, and that's it. So, of course, he might die planting, he might die droning, he might die doing whatever he's doing because he's not actively engaging people. He's there to do the objective-based job. So, of course, his KD is going to be low, but his cost is high. So, there are different statistics that we use to analyze players, and cost is the most effective one rather than KD. So what I like now is that Rise have decided, you know what? I don't like kitchen, but I like rear stage. And a team like mine, we play tower a lot. A lot. We have quite a high win ratio on this particular site. And if you know how to hold it well, and given that Rise have been really passive on their defensive side, it can be really popular and it gets you a really big high win rate. And see Soniqs keeping all their drones outside. Super doing the right thing, taking his drone down into blue. See if anyone's playing there. There should be another drone going into garage, and I think Ghost is pushing his over there, so it's good. Some good drone placements in areas of peaks. Someone else from Sonic should actually take their drone over into Kid Storms, because that's a popular peak as well. But I don't see one going over there. You can see Avian not entirely sure where he wants to push this. UMP, not a great weapon, and yeah. Getting almost out fragged by Ghost and Avian, and trades coming out left, right, and center, and that's insane. But that bottom control is so very important. So now that Ghost has it, even though it was trade for trade, and it was the Capitari that got killed for it. But Ghost is in a really good spot here because he can pretty much stop anyone pushing. And there you go. There goes the castle, and he now has stairs control. Although crazy moving up. Okay, so they had a lot of people from Rise downstairs, which can be a really popular way of holding tower because it's just not... It's not an easy way to come up. This is the only way you can come back to retake site. And if you've got like 2 or 3 people downstairs and they're all trying to funnel up through the stairs, it can be a pretty decisive, kill hole or a murder place to come through. So generally you have 2 people downstairs max, but Soniqs, they wanted that bottom floor control. They got it, but Crazy is now moving up as well. And I don't think that they were sort of expecting him that way. And Ghost, I think... wrong decision to have moved all the way up into meeting, because at that point he could have just held stairs for his team and this wouldn't have happened, but it doesn't matter. Far out. Okay, so Goddess there was aware someone was pushing her, thank goodness, because she was able to get off. And now the people who are holding top tower and whatnot, are lost for how to deny this plan. It's crazy Goddess with these fragmite kills. Crazy, crazy. So realistically, this shouldn't have worked for Soniqs because they didn't have top tower control. They didn't really have mid tower control. You can see Vandal playing on the stairs here with the peak. So the fact that the plan got off is really strange to me. Should not have worked. That's going to be a Superman. That was a crazy round from Goddess. Why I say that shouldn't have worked for Soniqs is because usually you always need top tower control. Because people can play on mid stairs, like we saw Vandal playing on the Maestro, and they can aim on that default plant spot there. There's 2 default plant spots at that door. You can kind of plant wherever you kind of want at that door. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, you could just get shut down there so quickly from the stairs, and it's really hard to counter. And the fact that no one was on stairs countering Goddess when she was planning, and then she just flicks up and kills like 2 people, it's crazy. So replay his death. I got asked to replay this man's death. Boom. Like a slingshot. Like an absolute slingshot. Yeah, that was a funny one. But as I said, the fact that Soniqs won that round was gifted to them. Well, not gifted. Goddess had some really nutty shots there. So, really not much to say about that round. I mean, Rise probably should have won that one given the setup. Last time they played Dorms, though, they played so perfectly. I'm worried that quite possibly Goddess doesn't need to be on the Thermite. She could have picked another operator because she knows they're probably going to open up Attic because they do the same thing every time. They hold every side on every map anyway. So she probably could have gotten off the Thermite and picked something else that would have helped them push Kitchen out so that they could plan. Or to even have like some kind of pressure on Whites there so no one can hold underneath double window if that's where she wants to plan. Tower take from Soniqs. And look at that. Someone playing mid tower and Attic. But guess what? No one's playing top tower. I don't know what he just smoked and what for. I have a feeling that was like a misclick or something. I have no idea what that was about, but managed to take tower again. As easy as you'd like. And now they're just reinforcing over Attic. So that's a great adaptation, actually. They reinforce over Attic once tower control's been taken. And that allows them to force them to have to use a exothermic. And they leave Super to hold the flank. Good old Super. Actually, they didn't reinforce Attic at all. It was a late reinforcement. I have no idea what that was even about. It's still open for them. So that was a random, why even bother opening Attic or reinforcing that if you were just going to give it away to Soniqs anyway? good to see that Soniqs learned from their last round attacking kids, and rather than trying to plant double window like they did last time, they've decided to open up bedroom for the bedroom push. And now they have over a minute to play with to bait out these smokes, to bait out C4s or whatever is going to stop them. That's really good. Oh, those wall bangs, my goodness. Finally, the smokes are coming out. I'm not sure how many they have left. And they have none left. There you go. That's super aggression from Ghost really working out. They fired off Dorm's door. And I don't know how Neptune's knew someone was there, but he knows they're there. That's an easy round for Soniqs. Oh, beautiful revolver headshot into Ghost, but it's almost unrecoverable at this point. Easy for Soniqs. And I think what it was is that Rise weren't prepared to stop the defuse happening over on bedroom side the same way they were prepared with Maestro cams facing double window. So they had a Maestro cam on the shelf facing double window, but they had no Maestro cam there helping assist when people were walking in through the closet. This I like. Now that we moved on to the second half, you can see that Soniqs are like, yo, all right, we're going to play our own game, bring in the clash. Whether or not they 6-pick off of it though, yeah, as I say that, the Echo comes out instead. I mean, running the Maestro Echo downstairs when it's not banned is super powerful. Super, super powerful. Again, both teams relying on the mute to jam the hatch. Considering there's no Thatcher, it's a pretty safe bet about it, but Crazy's actually taking the Maverick, which I like. It's an easy way. You can draw one single line on the hatch, look down through the single line, the Maverick hole, and shoot the mute jammer. And then you can just thermite open the hatch. I don't understand why NA teams feel the need, or at least these two NA teams in particular, feel the need to run a full meeting hold. Because very maybe, Soniqs, and I think they did just reinforce the top of Attic then, and they've muted it. Okay, so if you're going to do it, you got to know how to do it, and it looks like Soniqs knows how to do it. And again, polar opposite ways of going about it. They've decided to do a full Attic hold, and that's how you do it. That's how you're able to hold meeting, is if you have Attic control. Not bedroom control, not dorms control, Attic control. Avian can hear the stage wall getting open, so he has to default out. But I believe there's still people up in Attic, or at least one still in Attic. I mean, they've used an entire exothermic on the stage wall to get control of meeting, but they don't even know 100% if they're going to have the full control that they need. And like that, okay, yeah, it is gifted to them in the end. And the hatches are open for them, so that's an easy one for them. So, just like we saw when Soniqs were attacking, they were gifted Attic, and now Rise is gifted Attic. And what do? They go and open the kitchen, so that anyone can rotate through there. But it doesn't really matter because this is what a Maverick can do best. Those peak holes into attic, it's not going to open it up for anyone to rotate through any of the defenders, but it does give Neptunes, unfortunately, an early kill in the round. So actually not so early because they only have a minute left. I do realize that, and that now the Maverick's going to have to work on this hatch because they're going to try and open the other hatches, and reinforcing that corner hatch was a very smart move. I know Rise had chosen to open that one up and freely give it to the Soniqs, but the double shield in the hallway is also such a smart idea as well. Got us running into those flames. Such a rough position. Ghost is actually clipping those smokes through the wall there. I mean, this is just a flurry. I don't even know what to say about this one. A beautiful shot from Avian though. Jesus. He goes for the pickup. There you go. I mean, that round was extremely messy to have to analyze. That is crazy. Okay, so someone in my chat said Neptune shot the thermite charge right before he died. So that would explain why only stage was able to get open, and then you have to rely on Maverick and whatnot, but they did have a double hard breach. So that was the positives of Rise's setup there, was that they had double hard breach and they were good to go. Rather, now you had Soniqs, who I guess had the aggressivity, had the correct shots, had the way to go about it to really throw Rise off and get that retake. Sometimes there are teams who are too focused on stopping the plant rather than going, okay, let the plant happen and then we can retake. What they had there was they had Ghost sort of like run through and try and like YOLO it a little bit there and go, okay, I'm going to try and get the person with the diffuser. He was like maybe 1 second too late, but you know, that good hallway hold from Avian there, knowing that Ghost had sort of downed the planter and then he getting down himself. So it was a flurry of kills. That's hard to analyze a round like that because the push in itself wasn't bad and they got map control. Soniqs gave it up the same way that they gave it up, but it was more that maybe a couple of the smokes from Ghost weren't 100% correct. There should have kind of been a C4 waiting for the plant denial. They know where it's likely to go. So maybe a little bit of fault on the Soniqs there for not being able to get some plant denial in the correct spots. But they were getting heavily aggressed upon from corner hatch and whatnot as well. Now, Soniqs, having one downstairs, only barely, move upstairs to kids' dorms. And for this one, they've chosen to bring a castle, which is a more popular operator to run on this site because you can castle off the windows in kids' dorms. You can castle off, you know, a couple of other areas that you really want to hold. So you can see Super is actually going to castle off the armory hallway window, which shows me that he might want to have someone play in that hallway. He's also going to castle off mid window as well. So actually just wants those windows to stay closed. Generally, you kind of, want to castle some of the kids' dorms windows as well, but doesn't look like that's the priority for the Soniqs. They just want those windows to stay firmly closed. They got a double ADS on the kids' dorms as well. %, surprised here that Rise want to do a map sweep. They do this on every map. They go from one side of the map to the other, clearing anyone, and they're good clearers. They're good roam clearers. I will admit that they really force people out of spots really quickly, and That's why you can see Super sort of defaulting out, rotating himself downstairs, and I don't even think anyone's playing in kitchen anymore, which they were before. So this like solo aggression from Hyper and like a couple of drones has scared Soniqs off enough that now everyone has rotated out. I think that, yeah, and this is what so this is what I had thought those castles were for, is that if you're going to open attic and you're going to have someone play there, they can get, they can get capitated, they can get naded from the little attic rectangle window and stuff, so it can be hard. But if you then reinforce the bedroom walls like this, as we're seeing here, you can see this reinforced and this reinforced, and you're sort of playing around here and here, and they haven't done a tower take because you know that they do like a kitchen take or something like that, then you can easily have someone with a shotgun here, or sometimes when mirror's not banned, you can put a mirror here, and then there's a castle behind him on the armory hallway, and there's a castle here. So you can play here pretty easily. If anyone tries to come up armory stairs, there's going to be some barbed wire there. I think there's also Neptune's playing over an armory. So it's such a safe spot to sit here when you've got so much covering you around you. It's funny that I think, which I didn't spot before. Let's have a look. I don't think I saw that before. That wall into bedroom is soft, which I've actually not seen a team do in a heckin' long time. So the fact that that wall there is soft and they've defaulted those, they've rotated those reinforcements over to the bedroom wall instead, I kind of like it, because you can open that up all you want, or maybe you've used your soft breach somewhere else and now you can't put your exothermic there. I think it's really, really intelligent from Soniqs. Really like that. Beautiful C4. See, Avian's just sitting so comfortably here in the bedroom hallway. He didn't even have to shotgun him. He just decided to toss a C4 and he collected their thermite, which probably didn't really matter because they left the bedroom wall soft anyway, but still a good pick. Oh, and here's the thing about Neptune's is that sometimes he does good picks, sometimes he does bad picks. And I think it's for him, it's like a 70-30 split, More often than not, he picks the good time to peak or a good angle to peak, and sometimes not so much. Oh, the flick onto the castle by Hyper. He is a great fragger. The thing about Super being downstairs like that is that, you know what? He may have got killed, and I know that Super's cost isn't super great, but, pun not intended, but he does manage to delay time, which is one of those stats that isn't really given a lot of thought. That is so horrific for Goddess there, because she's obviously just trying to lay in and get the refrag onto Hyper, and Avian missed his point blank shotgun as well, so. But Hyper's so lit from the smokes anyway, so. This now, with only 18 seconds left, they've got the Maestro cams, they've got Goddess with a full Elder, they've got one Smoke Babe left, which Goddess collects that kill, and all he has to do is now smoke, and he could stop this. It doesn't matter, and he collects the head anyway. That was a really interesting setup, because all they needed to have done, in my mind, was take the Zofia underneath and impact underneath the near classroom. And they could have gotten the person behind, or they impact one of the castles, maybe on the armory window, or done something, or got armory control somehow, but they just didn't. They tried to force themselves through bedroom. They didn't take any attic control. No wonder Soniqs were able to just hold one-dimensional horizontal lines of sight. So this will be an interesting site, because kitchen can be one of those ones where you're stuck in the default way of holding it every time. You take a maestro, you take, a castle or a smoke or whatever, or C4s, and some people try and bandit trick the wall, some people don't. Some people put a shield there to help them bandit trick. I mean, it's all about that small tower hold. And if you get that wall open, then you got to rely on the planted art. It's this so one-dimensional site. It's why it's so unpopular. I mean, look at Avian. Absolutely popping off. And mind you, he's been playing things like Mute and a lot of support ops as well. So goes to show that if you play it in the right position, you've got that game sense. Doesn't matter how good your aim is, you can really do well with it. The thing that worries me about Rise and a lot of their attacking pushes on Oregon is that they use a heck of a lot of drones, but they don't use them effectively and efficiently. So you can see now what all they need to do is get this wall open in tower, and Rise are known for doing really, really quick pushes into the building. And that's why they're already in tower now. They've got the control and everything. It would upset me if they open that castle, because generally teams will leave that castle up and it allows them to have really strong control over a small tower. And usually actually this line of sight that Neptune's is holding is held by an ACOG, but he's just got the reflex holding instead, which is really funky. I like that. But it's really dangerous all at once as well. See, now that the wall's open, it's almost as if Soniqs don't really have anything to stop the plant going down other than some smokes and the intel for the Maestro cams. And see, having Neptunes being able to peek into the hallway like that is ridiculous. And also the castle of Ghost being able to run out on top. They've got drones, but they're not doing anything with it. And this is why Rise consistently are only able to do certain zonings of the map, and then they're not able to do much else. So, give you an example. Ghost here, what Rise would do is they bring a drone up and they'd spot him. He'd shoot the drone and then nothing would happen. Generally, what Rise are really good at doing at the start of the map, and then their mid and late game is horrific at doing, is that they'll be able to hot drone, they'll bring a drone up, and then like Hyper is running up behind it. And Ghost gets taken off guard because he's trying to shoot the drone. Hyper kills him. It's an easy done. But after the start of the round and the fact that he's already been taken off the board, now the rest of his team is stalling out. And what they actually need to be doing is making use of their drones, making sure that they're getting and holding the lines of sight, The fact that someone had moved all the way up to hay bales in the middle of the hallway and gotten taken out by Neptunes as a result was something that should not have happened. Neptunes with all of these aggressive peaks should not be allowed to get away with it. See, this spot right now that Goddess is in, generally, like, you'll see teams like G2 and whatnot, they'll actually set up like a shield right here and then just have someone laying here because it's almost impossible to get rid of them from anywhere. So she's laying here. She could watch this line of sight here. She could have someone else try and challenge the line of sight over into small tower as well if she wanted to, while she focused on the dining peak. And instead, we're just having a bunch. All Rise needed to do was bait the plant once. They had a Capitao. All they needed to do was get the Capitao to smoke a line of sight, get the smokes thrown over from Goddess. She panicked a bit. She crawled over here. Once the smoke had dissipated, get a shot onto her, and then have England run in, actually plant once the C4s and whatnot had been gone, and that plant could have gone. Instead, they had all of their people in small tower moving up into the hallway, which wasn't necessary. You also didn't need to open the castle, also unnecessary. You could have laid and looked underneath the castle for anyone running over for those peaks, or held it from the bathroom rappel on the outside, or from White Stairs, considering that wall was half open. So there was a bunch of different ways that you could have gone about it, and instead Rise decided to challenge everything, and they got killed as a result. And then it only leaves England by himself to try and get that plant down. And it's one that, again, Sonic shouldn't have won. It's one that they were set up to win. They had the right people. They had the right utility for it. They had someone on dining door. They had people in tower. They had someone watching the bathroom jump out. In that moment, all they needed to do was bait the smokes, bait the C4s. Once they were all out of commission, run in, plant. No one could run up on that spot behind him because you have someone from dining watching. And even if you didn't have the dining, if they wanted to watch the line of sight over to kitchen door and you wanted to have someone laying under the castle or whatnot, or considering you had a Maverick, you could have burned a little hole in it and use that. I mean, there's 100 different ways to go about it. But unfortunately, I just don't see Rise. And it is why they're now moved down to Challenger League. I truly, truly believe. I just don't see Rise being a team that knows how to play maps in a really critical and strategic way. Let's go with strategic. A strategic way that they need to get themselves into sight and execute and whatnot. And the same on defense, unfortunately. And both these maps that we've gone through tonight, I feel like it feels like I've just ragged on Rise the entire time. But for me, I feel for them because it was such an important match. And I felt like they didn't have the right strategies. I felt like they weren't cut out for verticality on Villa. I felt like they weren't cut out for baiting any of the plant denial from Soniqs, given they had so much map control really early and they were really time efficient. Their mid and late round were horrific. And the same with Soniqs. Soniqs looked more confident on Villa, even though they had a tighter scoreline. They looked more confident on Villa than they did on Oregon, even though Oregon was their map pick. So I feel like, having analyzed both these maps, and especially in regards to Soniqs, an absolute shout out to them. They deserve the Pro League spot. A lot of what they showed today was team synergy. They knew what their utility was meant to do. They have dedicated support. They have dedicated roam clearers. Neptunes really stood out as one of the ones who had stepped up from previous games before that. So they did an excellent job. But I feel like what Rise could do walking out of this and sort of getting pushed back down to CL is kind of go, okay, and I actually, this is possibly very ignorant of me, I actually don't know who their coach is, but maybe sit down with their coach and their analyst if they've got 2 or 1 or whatever they've run there and go, hang on, we actually aren't doing verticality at all. We're also not baiting plant denial. We're doing really basic mistakes. We're giving up parts of the map that we had opened up for them, and then we saw that, many rounds ago where they managed to do a meeting hold, but they didn't hold attic at all. and they just gave it all to Soniqs for free, which is such a sour way of playing it. They could really stall out their opponent by actually closing it all off and forcing them to use their utility. So, okay, Remorse is their coach. There you go. I should know that, actually. I know Remorse. But I believe it was not a recent thing, but a fairly recent thing. There you go. They dropped Pojo for Remorse. Okay, so yeah, and I should definitely know that. I'm not akin to the sort of NA scene as of late, so do give me some slack there, I believe. But yeah, I think my analysis of both of these maps has been a really critical one. I've tried to be as blunt as possible and as objective as possible. Soniqs played an excellent set of matches, but I say that because they were gifted a lot of those rounds. Had they have gone against someone who was maybe at a higher tier level or was maybe a harder opponent for them on those particular maps, I think Soniqs would have struggled a heck of a lot more, especially on their attacks when you had guys like Super and whatnot, unsure how to correctly use the Montaigne, doing his best to use it as intel, but the cohesion and the I guess, timeliness of his team to push and pinch and use that intel with him wasn't there. So there was no real teamwork in a lot of their attacking rounds that was necessary. So there was a lot of mistakes from both teams in both of these maps. But I just think overall, okay, there you go. So they didn't drop Pojo. They interviewed Pojo, but they chose Remorse instead. Got you. Well, there you go. That is both maps. I know we've been going at this for hours and hours and hours and hours, but I appreciate you guys tuning in and being here for the first VOD review. A lot of people have asked what I'm using. I use just the default YouTube, but I use Epic Pen. So my pen tool is called Epic Pen. Lets you draw on things and then clear it away and move it. And you can draw on anywhere on your screen whatsoever. It doesn't matter where it is. And it's a really good tool, so yeah, I enjoyed you guys being here with me. Straight after this VOD, in about 30 minutes or so, I'll be starting up another stream where I'm just going to be playing for the night, so you guys can tune in if you want to see the brand new Logitech mouse that I am now akin with, and I love it dearly. But thanks, guys, for being here. I will see you guys in another 30 minutes or so if you guys want to see some more Siege of me playing it rather than analyzing it. And this VOD will go up on my YouTube at some point tomorrow or the day after. So thanks for being here, guys. I really appreciate it. And am I partnered with Logitech? I cannot say. Still in the works. One of those things that, considering I have other sponsors in my organization, it's a tricky thing to balance, but it's something they want and something I'm keen on doing. So we'll see. But I'll see you guys in the next 30 minutes. And thanks for tuning in. Any comments or whatnot, remember, I'm just here to be as blunt and as objective as possible, and all of my analysis here today was about that. Doesn't matter about the teams or anything. I love them all just the same. So thanks for being here, guys, and I'll see you soon.